Good morning. Ooh, okay. Go ahead and call to order the May 1st, 2018 regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida. I'd like to welcome everyone here. We have a great crowd, so looking forward to all the presentations and proclamations. At this point, it's my pleasure to invite up Jeff Smith, the Clerk of the Circuit Court, and our Comptroller, who will lead us in the invocation. That'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Jason Brown, the County Administrator. And we will lead things off with a moment of silent reflection for our first responders. Would everyone please rise?
Father, we thank you, Lord, that we can come to this gathering place in a free society, in a representative government to do your business. Lord, we just ask your blessing on the proceedings today, that civility reigns and decisions are made according to your wisdom. Lord, we praise you for the freedom in this country. We praise you for the first responders. We praise you for the teachers and administrators, doctors, and clerical staff, all in this country and in this county, Lord. We just thank you, we praise you, and we ask a special blessing today on all that gather here. These things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jeff. Under additions or deletions to the agenda, we had a request from the applicant to pull item 10B1. That's under public speaking, and that was at the request of the submitter, so we will pull and delete item 10B1. Commissioners, any other additions or deletions to the agenda?
Move approval.
We have a motion from Commissioner Flesher, second by Commissioner Adams. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries 5-0. We now move to presentations and proclamations. And I do just want to put in one plug for all of you folks here for the different proclamations. You might want to stick around for the presentation on Your Call Football. It's kind of a really unique, innovative thing we're doing, starting here at Dodgertown, and we'll have a little presentation on it, and especially Commissioner Solari will be very interested in this, I think. So,
Don't behave.
So the first proclamation, these are always, to me, very bittersweet when we're honoring and recognizing the retirement of any of our employees, but particularly our emergency rescue folks that have dedicated their careers to protecting all the citizens here in the county. And so we are going to start this morning with a presentation of a proclamation honoring Mark Ian Daniels on his retirement from Indian River County Board of County Commissioners, Department of Emergency Services, with 30 years of service. Chief Daniels, you want to come up to the podium here, please, and bring everybody that you'd like to stand behind you. Everybody, come on up. Stand behind Captain. Tell them you're still the chief for another 2 weeks or so. They got to do what you say. Good morning. Let me go ahead and read this, Mark, and then we'll love to hear a few words from you, okay? It's a proclamation honoring Mark Ian Daniels on his retirement from Indian River County Board of County Commissioners, Department of Emergency Services, Fire Rescue. Whereas Mark Ian Daniels began his distinguished career in public service with Indian River County as a firefighter on May 30, 1988. And whereas through diligent work and demonstrated ability, he advanced through the fire service ranks, becoming an EMT in 1989, driver engineer in 1992, fire lieutenant in 1997, obtained his paramedic license in 2000, and upon consolidation in 2006, was awarded lieutenant fire medic status and quickly rose to the position of fire medic captain in 2008, and on May 10th, 2013, achieved the prestigious title of Indian River County Fire Rescue Emergency Operations Battalion Chief. And whereas Chief Mark Ian Daniels, a selfless and dedicated public service, retires on May 22nd, 2018, in his 30th year of honorable service to the residents and guests of Indian River County. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the Board applauds Chief Daniels' efforts on behalf of the county, and the Board wishes to express their deepest gratitude for the dedicated service he has given to Indian River County for the last 30 years. And be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners and staff extend their sincerest wishes for success in all his future endeavors. Adopted this first day of May 2018, signed by myself as Chairman of the Board of County Commissioners. Mark, again, as I said, it's bittersweet. We hate to see you go, but we have certainly appreciated your service to the county for the last 30 years. And tell us something you're going to do fun now that you're getting retired.
Well, we have a son that's in the Marine Corps who's due to deploy.
Thank you.
I have a son that's a police officer for Chapel Hill. We have our house, and we are going to travel and live in an RV lifestyle, the trailerhood, as we call it. My wife, myself, and our dog, and we're going to see this country.
Wow.
I have to thank her for 27 years of marriage and her support. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today doing what I've loved to do. I do it on a daily basis. She's put up with the late night phone calls, people calling with all sorts of issues. It's been a tremendous honor and a privilege to serve here. I've lived here since 1975. The men and women behind me, those that were afraid to come forward. I've been a little hard at times. I've always demanded a certain level, and it's proud to see the people that have worked for me, with me, to achieve the ranks that they have. My dear friend Ron Angelone, since the Academy, 1987, thick and thin, has been there for me side by side. Chief King, who has mentored me, given me great advice, helped form who I am today. But again, it's been a distinct privilege and honor to serve this community that I've loved. The softball teams from Indian River County that have set the standard for firefighters in the state of Florida. Dean, you were there, winning open, 30 and over, 40 and over, up against departments like Metro-Dade. So a 105-member department at the time, playing up against 2,000 and setting the standard, setting the new rules that are applied today to the firefighter Olympics. The camaraderie, the fellowship, the retirement party. Thank you. Great surprise, but thank you again. I appreciate everything everyone does. There's a great future here, great future for our department, for emergency services in Indian River County, and it's been a very privilege and honor again to serve with each and every one of them. And I thank them, but she gets the honor for putting up with me for 27 years and putting up with the department. But thank you. Thank you for the honor.
Thank you, Chief. Mark, you want to have everybody come on in front here for a picture, and you come on up here with us, yeah.
Hey, Bob, maybe you can work from your yard and he can move around the country and take.
Why don't y'all come on up front here?
guys.
Ron, come on. You guys all come up front. You want your wife to come up here?
Hand the camera over and come on up.
Might have to make 2 rows, folks. Make 2 rows so we get everybody in. Come on up.
Come on up.
Come on up. Linda, come up here, please, Linda. Linda, go down and come up the steps.
And bring your honeydew list with you.
Y'all are gonna have to form CPR.
Wait, hold on.
We're not even settled down now. Wait.
All right, here we go. Now we got the real one up here.
Right over here. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2.
Don't move them. Because when the arms go down, I want to. Hang on, guys. This is for Linda, the wife. Smile. One more. Thank you.
You know, my wife.
No, I know. You.
Hey.
All right, for the kid.
For the kids.
You know, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Fleischer.
you mentioned a lot about Chief Mark Daniels, and I just would be remiss to include in that statement that you presented that Mark not only did what he did for the people of Indian River County, the residents in fire service, but I want to attribute him to building relations with law enforcement. Responding to the scene is somewhat chaotic and very tough, and there's rules and procedures on both ends of the game. And I have to say that Mark really worked at it to ensure that everything got taken care of for the greater good of the citizens first. And he did not, he maintained a perfect balance between law enforcement and fire service. Had the occasion to respond to many scenes, and some of them are not that pleasant. And as they're going on, you know, opinions and attitudes tend to rise. And I want to say, Mark, thank you for what you've done for relationships as well. Thank you.
Jason?
Yeah, just briefly, thank you, Mark, for your service. A man of tremendous integrity and character. Been a pleasure working with you for numerous years over the years. There was a time in earlier in our careers where we were sitting across from a table that can sometimes be contentious, but it never was with Mark. Everything was always with respect, and a tremendous person of character, and you can see that tremendously respected by his peers and his colleagues and people in the department. So just a very fine example of what a fire rescue person and a leader can be. So thank you for your service, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you again, Chief. Appreciate it. Next, we have a presentation or proclamation designating May 6th through 12th, 2018 as Public Service Recognition Week. We have a lot of our county employees here this morning, so if you all would just come on up, either fill in the front area here or the podium. So come on up, and I'm going to read out the names of the folks that we have representing our different departments here. Sheila Voltze, General Services; Lisa Benito, Human Services; Ann Shepard, the Main Library; Holly McDougall, Brackett Library; Elizabeth Stenger, Law Library; Kathleen Bauman, North County Library; Suzanne Masters, Gifford Library; Brad Dewson, Parks; James Breck, Fairgrounds; Beth Powell, Parks Conservation, Scott Newkirk, North County Aquatic, Vinnie Scarati, Gifford Aquatic, Kayla Stevens, Ocean Rescue, Woody Manyoga, IG Center, Joel Herman, Veteran Services, Maria Bowdren, Community Development, Lisa Patton, Utilities, Carrie Cundiff, Engineering, Jill Williams, Engineering, Adam Heltemis, Engineering, Stacy Mason, Engineering, Lenny Zanka, Traffic Engineering, Miles Holmes, Traffic Engineering, Dante Taylor, Traffic Engineering, Austin Bridwell, Road and Bridge, Rob Rooney, Road and Bridge, Kevin Gertler, Road and Bridge, and Shelley Nowlin, Human Resources. Folks, these are your public servants here that take care of us on our day-to-day needs and issues, and I'm going to stand up so I can read the...
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And because due to scheduling, we're unable to list our fire rescue representatives, and also we have the sheriff here as well, and Teddy Floyd can represent the sheriff, but I want to also introduce some of our representatives from fire rescue.
Okay, sure, great.
I'd have Lieutenant April Rattray, Engineer John Reardon, and Fire Medic Silas Doyle, and myself, Corey Richter.
All right. Corey, why don't you have those folks on the 4 or 5 on the end come on down here in the middle? Teddy, anybody else here? Sheriff's hiding over there in the back in Major Flowers, I see. Okay. Oh, very good. I'll go ahead and read this proclamation.
Clerk's office, since they're here as well.
Yeah.
Our clerk's office.
Clerk's office? Yep.
Come on, Ted.
Is Jeff still here? Or?
Can't see him.
Did we miss anyone? Anyone here? Another agency? All right. You're all public employees. Thank you so much.
We got them all here, Mike? All right. So a proclamation designating May 6 through 12, 2018 as Public Service Recognition Week. Whereas public employees at the federal, state, and local levels conduct the public's business and perform essential services, and whereas public employees improve our quality of life through their efforts in many fields, including education, emergency management, public safety, transportation, natural resources, health, and national defense. And whereas public employees dedicate themselves to the continuous improvement of the quality of life for Floridians, and many, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, healthcare practitioners, and others, risk their lives every day in public service. And whereas the efficiency and effectiveness of government depends on public employees ensuring government services are accessible and responsive to the public and the diverse needs of residents. And whereas the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners recognizes the dedication, talents, and contributions made by public employees working in all levels of government. And whereas the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners appreciates the dedication, talents, and contributions of county employees who, by their example of achievements, are focusing on the highest standards of customer service. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners, Indian River County, Florida, that the week of May 6 through 12, 2018, be observed as Public Service Recognition Week, and encourage all Indian River County residents to recognize the men and women who serve at all levels of government for the betterment of our great county, state, and nation. Adopted this first day of May, 2018, signed and endorsed by all 5 county commissioners. Ladies and gentlemen, the county appreciates your service, and we greatly appreciate having you here this morning to share this proclamation with you. Thank you. And then, Mike, did you want to add anything before we let them all go, or?
Well, it's, this is humbling being in front of you all. I think each of you were chosen for some of the special dedication that you provide the county. And on behalf of Jason Brown, the County Administrator's Office, please accept our sincere gratitude for your day-to-day work and dedication and commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Oh. Who
Who do you give that to?
There you go. Yeah, that's good. Good call. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning. Morning. Good morning. Whoa. Morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, you are.
Oh, thank you.
Next on the agenda is a presentation of a proclamation designating the month of May 2018 as Historic Preservation Month. This will be presented by Commissioner Zork, and we have Carolyn Bayless here, and I think Mayor Tyson, or Mayor Joel, you want to come on up? Anybody else?
I'll give you the names.
Okay. We'll let Commissioner.
Everybody's reluctant this morning, aren't they?
Yeah, Commissioner Zork will make the presentation, then you can give a few words and introduce everybody.
Okay.
Okay, great. Commissioner Zork.
Good morning. This is a proclamation designating the month of May 2018 as Historic Preservation Month. Whereas the National Historic Preservation Act was signed into law in 1966 and established the nation's legal framework for the protection and preservation of historic buildings, landscapes, and archaeological discoveries. And whereas, over the past 50 years, the National Historic Preservation Act has had a profound and positive impact on local communities throughout Florida, especially throughout the National Register of Historic Places, a program honoring our nation's diverse cultural, agricultural, natural, and built environments. And whereas the United States and thousands of public and private and nonprofit sector partners, such as Indian River County Historical Society, are commemorating the 50th anniversary of the National Historic Preservation Act throughout 2018 under the banner of Preservation 50. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives, and Historic Preservation Month in 2018 is an occasion for celebrating the historic resources within our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners, Indian River County, Florida, that the month of May 2018 be designated as Historic Preservation Month in Indian River County, adopted this first day of May 2018, signed by all 5 county commissioners. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. I'd like to introduce some of the key people from Indian River County who are responsible for the preservation of our county. First, we have Ann Michael. She's historian for Orchid Island and Jungle Trail. Then we have Corky Corker, Fellsmere's first historian and a great photographer and a former member of the Historical Society Board of Directors. We have Joel Tyson, mayor of Fellsmere for many, many years and former president of the Indian River County Historical Society. We have Johnny Mae Perry. She is the curator of the Gifford Historical Museum and the executive director of the Gifford Community Cultural and Resource Center, and she is a current member of the board of the Historical Society. And of course, I can't forget Ruth Stanbridge, who is the county historian and is the right hand of all of the groups in Indian River County. And we have other volunteers. This is a volunteer group, and we are so pleased to accept this certificate for you today. Great. Anyone want to say anything? Okay, that's it.
Commissioner? The mayor? Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
You'll listen to the direction of the staff photographer.
Two steps to your right.
Push him down, Courtney.
Okay, on three. One, two, three. One more. One, two, three. Thank you for one more for me. One more.
Come back to the right, please. Come back to the right. Thank you, Corky.
You're welcome, Cal.
Man. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
you're going to take like 3 steps to your left. Your other ball. Everybody down 3 steps.
Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you all. Next will be a presentation of proclamation designating May 1st, 2018 as Law Day and April 30th through May 5th, 2018 as Law Week. And this will be presented by Commissioner Slaughter and is Dane, oh, there he is already. Good. Well, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
Commissioner Slaughter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'll go ahead and read the proclamation, and then we'll let you say a few words if you would.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very happy to read this proclamation. Designating May 1st, 2018 as Law Day and April 30th through May 5th, 2018 as Law Week. Whereas Law Day is an occasion of public acknowledgement of our nation's and Florida's heritage, justice, liberty, and equality under the law. And whereas Law Day has been annually proclaimed by the President of the United States since Dwight D. Eisenhower proclaimed the first Law Day on May 1st, 1958. And whereas the American Bar Association has identified the 2018 Law Day theme as Separation of Powers. And whereas the United States Constitution vests legislative, executive, and judicial power in Congress, a president and 1 Supreme Court respectively. And whereas these 3 separate branches of the national government share power and each also serves as a check on the power of the others. And whereas separation of powers provides a framework for freedom, but this framework is not self-executing, as we, the people, must continually act to ensure that our constitutional democracy endures, preserving our liberties and guaranteeing our rights. And whereas the 2018 Law Day theme enables us to reflect on the separation of powers as fundamental to our constitutional purpose and to consider how our government system is working for ourselves and our posterity. And whereas Law Day, May 1st, 2018, and Law Week, April 30th through May 5th, will be commemorated in Indian River County, Florida, with events such as Ask a Lawyer, Lawyers in the Courtroom, and in a breakfast honoring the local judiciary and their staff. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that May 1st, 2018, be designated as Law Day, and April 30th through May 5th, 2018, be designated as Law Week in Indian River County, adopted this first day of May 2018 and signed by all 5 members of the Board of County Commissioners. Again, good morning.
Good morning. On behalf of the Indian River County Bar Association and the Young Lawyers Division, which put on Law Week every week, we want to thank the board and the County Attorney's Office for continuing to support Law Day and Law Week in Indian River County. As we try to do every year, we have lawyers in classrooms throughout the county, usually in civics or history classes, teaching about the theme. This year, the theme is separation of powers. So hopefully we present a role model, someone to aspire or look up to, or, you know, in any event, we present the opportunity for kids to hear from a lawyer about the importance of the Constitution, government, and the rule of law, at least one day a year from somebody who's hopefully trying to practice that out in the community. Tomorrow we'll have the judges' breakfast where we honor the judiciary and their staff, and on Thursday from 10 o'clock in the morning until 2 p.m. at the County Main Library on the 2nd floor, we'll be having our annual Ask a Lawyer event in which any member of the community who has legal issues, generally family law, criminal law, landlord-tenant type disputes are the things that we're most capable of answering in the moment like that. But any other questions they may have, we can either provide an answer or get them referred to someone who can get them the help that they're looking for. So again, thanks to the board, thanks to the county's attorney's office. And one more thing, on Saturday, May 5th, the annual Jawbones versus Sawbones game between the lawyers and doctors in town. It's at Dodgertown. It's a great time. Tickets are very cheap, $5 per person or $10 for your family. This year, we're benefiting the Live Like Cole Foundation and the Jimmy Graves Foundation. Right after that, at Dodgertown, sponsored by TD Bank, will be a barbecue. So hope to see everyone out there.
Dane, I don't know if you were here when we did the proclamation for Chief Daniels, but he mentioned how they won the softball Olympics against all the firefighters. So I don't know if you guys can, ordain a couple of them to be a lawyer for the day or something, but... Because I know you guys aren't really on a winning streak on this thing.
Use the help last year. I think that, I don't know if the doctors have some ringers or what the deal is, but they've really beat us pretty badly the last couple of years.
Yeah, so you might want to talk to the firefighters and just kind of designate them as an attorney for the day or something.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, good. Thank you very much and good luck Saturday.
Thank you.
Either way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll see you Saturday.
I'm very excited to introduce this next presentation. At this point, I'd like to call up Julie Maringer, who is president of Your Call, Inc., and Jason Atwell with AAG Live. Julie, you want to come to this podium over here. Commissioners, this is really great, and if you remember, I don't know, about a year ago, Commissioner Solari finally got a cell phone, got into the 21st century, and if you remember a couple months ago, he was talking about wanting to have a live app of our conservation lands that would be interactive, so people could utilize the app and go through our conservation lands. And then you all know that I've been on a 12-year quest to get Commissioner Solari up to speed on sports and football. So this combines all of that, Commissioner. It's a live app, it's going to be interactive, and it's all about football. And this is just going to be right up your alley.
I'm looking forward to it.
Good. So, but I'm very excited to introduce Julie, and you're going to lead it off, and welcome. Good morning.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and thanks, everybody who's here tonight. My name is Julie Maringer. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, but I'm living here in Vero Beach very happily for 6 weeks because if anyone watches the national weather, it's still winter in Boston. It was snowing and cold and awful over the weekend, so thank you for having me. And I just want to say that before I give you a really quick spiel on who we are and what we're doing, this community is fantastic. So we started looking at a place to house live football and integrated with technology about 2 years ago. There aren't a lot of great options around the United States that offer a campus-type environment where you can do sports and house and do physical training, et cetera, and Dodgertown has been a home run. So the people there have been excellent, and everybody in this community, I want to say that I'm super appreciative. We have employed the sheriff's folks come at night, and I've met a lot of them. They've been fantastic. We have a lot of Citrus 3, a media company, Arc Electric, StarTech, Bob Hillard at Scott Sporting Goods. So there have been a number of local businesses that we have employed, and they've been fantastic, and we're appreciative. But also I wanted you to know that we've tried to give back to this community in our short window. So we had Dodgertown 4th and 5th grade elementary students over 2 weeks ago. We sponsored and we donated to that school, and we brought these students on campus for about an hour and a half to see these football players and help them to talk about what's happening with sports and technology. So we're trying to give back, but your community has been excellent as well, so thank you. So basically, Your Call Football really can be summed up in 4 simple words: fans call the plays. So if you've ever watched a long NFL game and they're getting longer and longer and you've been bored and or frustrated, this is for you. So Your Call Football is integrating 3 businesses. We are taking the business of football with the business of fantasy and the business of gaming and bringing it together for the first time. And we're doing that all here in your backyard, so we're very excited about it. And basically, our business model, to kind of give you a sense, is, you have all these kids or grandkids or whoever you have who are down in this bottom right-hand quadrant who are playing video games. They have the ultimate control. They're spending too much time on video games, but it's not real. You have maybe my generation or some of us around here, we may not be video people, but we're in the bottom left quadrant. We're addicted to Game of Thrones or any TV series that's out there, but it's not real and we have no control. Some of us are in the top left-hand quadrant. We love to go to real games. We love to go to baseball games and football games. It's live, but we have no control. We have to sit there and watch and get frustrated. And, you know, there's kind of this genre of reality TV out there where they're giving some fans some control over a live event. I have 3 daughters, and they love Dancing with the Stars, so they were on last night voting on a website. So there is something happening with reality TV allowing fans to control the game, and this is where Your Call Football comes in. So our business model, our differentiator is we are allowing fans to have control of a live event. So I'm going to skip over this. It's a little boring, and I'm going to click right to this video. This will help to tell you what's happening right now at Dodgertown.
Got to go for it on 4th.
So this happened last Wednesday night at Dodgertown. This is our technology. The coaches are picking their 3 plays based on the situation. That's Merrill Hodge from the Steelers. And basically, we had some fans on site, but we had over 700 fans all over the U.S. on their phones voting in real time. So you didn't get the volume there, but basically, that's what's happening. We've taken real football, and we've put all the coaches' plays, their plays, it's not gimmicky, into an iPad. They pick the play based on the situation. It goes up to Amazon in the cloud, comes down to your phone. You have 10 seconds. You pick the play. Goes back to that coach, and the coach says, all right, they want draw right. They run it on the field. And then if you voted with the majority and that play is successful, we're going to score you, just like you would get fantasy scores. And you can also set up competition. So you can set up a head-to-head. We could have a head-to-head, and so we could see who's the better play caller and getting better scores. You guys could have a league. All the commissioners could set up a league to see who's the best play caller. So this is all happening in your backyard right now at Dodgertown, and we are really excited about it. So to give you a sense, it's not gimmick. It is good football. It is NFL rules. We have NFL refs. We have a 45-second play clock just to help us with the technology. We have 2 teams we've rostered right now. Over 95% of these players have been in an NFL camp. 13 of them have played for an NFL team. I have 3 Super Bowl rings right down there. I have Bernard Pierce, Robert Meacham, and B.J. Daniels, to name some names. I have Merrill Hodge, who was an ESPN analyst and Steelers. If anyone's a Steeler fan, great guy. You can go down and talk to him. He's accessible. Mike Sherman, Green Bay Packers, Texas A&M. He was here in Florida for a little while as well. And we're doing this all right back at Dodgertown. We have also some good companies that are down here. Lagardère Sports Entertainment, a big French and New York-based company. They're also giving back to your community. They're staying in the local hotels here and eating here. Phoenix is a Chicago-based streaming company, and we have 3 on-air Fox people. Jabari Greer, he was a Saints player, Justin Kutcher, and Jen Hale. So these are all people who are down here every Wednesday to Friday making this come to life. Huh?
I love
He's like, give me that thumbs up. I thought he's like, hurry up, you're taking too long. Move it along.
No. Commissioner Brown, we used to play against each other.
All right, there you go. And this is available. We are not on a TV network because this has to happen in real time. So we were being courted by CBS Sports and Turner to put it on their TV channels, right, so everyone could watch it at home. But all of those TV channels have like a 17 to 20-second delay, right, and I need 0 delay. Because my technology, I need 20 seconds for the coach to pick a play, go up to the cloud, come to your phone, and come back. And I can't have that be delayed, or else you, the fan, are going to have a terrible experience. So that's why we're doing live streaming. You can watch it in the app, which is the first time anyone's ever done that as well, or you can go to yourcallfootball.com and live stream it, or YouTube. And we're also with Barstool Sports. If anyone in this room is a fan of Barstool Sports, or you're probably kids or younger kids, you know we're going to be streaming with them as well. So We're just really proud about this. Just to give you a little more details, we have an agency in Boston that does all our marketing and branding. We have 3 patents that we own on this technology that no one else has had, based on the play calling and the scoring. And you know, we're getting a lot of great press, but we would love more support from you all. I'm not going to click through. I'll go here to the end. I mean, at the end of the day, we're in your backyard, and we have realized, we did a scrimmage the other night. We had the local high schools, Vero Beach High School. The athletic director has been fantastic, brought a bunch of kids down. But I had this little aha moment that Dodgertown is this fantastic place, but it's kind of, you know, unless there's like a game or a dedicated, like the Jackie Robinson game or something, like people don't necessarily head over there. So I'm working with Dodgertown. They have been fantastic, and also Peter came over and met my VP who's doing all the broadcasts, so I appreciated this audience. So we are live every Thursday at Dodgertown this month of May, so the 3rd, 10th, and 17th, 8:30 to 10:30. It's free football, free parking, free admission. We're going to have food trucks and beer trucks, so it's open. That you got to pay for, sorry. But other than that, you can come down and help be a part of something that's revolutionary and something that's completely different right in your backyard. We're getting a lot of good press. We've been on the national sports radio for the last 3 weeks, Merrill Hodge and Mike Sherman. We're getting picked up by a lot of local press and national press. They can be on-site at Dodgertown, or they could be all over the place. So all these players have huge social followings, and they have their family following them from wherever they're based and wherever they're out of as well.
Okay, so I'm loading the app right now.
All right, there you go. He's on. He's
And
on.
another thing, Jason Atwell, he's a local company here as well with AAG Live, doing a lot of the audio work for you. So
And the music.
in the music.
As well, yes.
So one of the things I'm excited about this is, at least for Dodgertown, this is kind of a great economic shot in the arm for the community too, because I know you all have a lot of folks here.
Yeah, so
you're
we're
creating
lodging
payroll and
yeah, we're lodging just at Dodgertown ourselves. We have over 100 people there. We have we're doing a lot with Dodgertown people. We've employed them, obviously local people as well, and it's been outstanding. Great community. Our business model calls for us to run multiple series like this, multiple games in a calendar year, and we're in talks with Dodgertown about how do we get back here.
perfect.
So, you know, this could be our home, which would be fantastic as well.
Oh, we would love that too.
Yeah.
So anything we can
Yes.
do to help with that. And I think you did extend an invitation to the commissioners to come out Thursday night and watch it.
Thursday night, come on down. The pregame starts at about 7, so, you know, there were some people who came down with young kids. On last Wednesday, we ran a scrimmage there. We didn't really publicize it because we wanted to see how everything worked together, but we had some local families and people who are working with us brought their kids down. So the players take the field around 7:30, so for the young kids, if it's a little late, they can definitely stay, obviously, and watch the first half of the first quarter. It's a 2-hour game, so we keep it really tight and we keep it moving.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you, and best of luck with it.
Appreciate the support, so we hope to see you there.
Hang on.
Yeah.
One question. So you made a kind of comment in passing that you'd maybe like to call Vero Beach your home, and we'd like to continue those discussions to see how we could help make that become a reality for you.
Definitely. We've Peter met my head of broadcasting, so I want to work on that as well. Yeah. No, it's hard. I will just say it's hard to find a place like Dodgertown. There are not a lot of them that exist where you can run. I mean, we're running like an NFL-style training camp right here in your backyard. We have former NFL coaches like Kurt Schottenheimer and Don Clemens, Bob Slowick. All these guys have played and coached in the NFL, and they have said to me this has been maybe one of their best experiences, and that's a testament to Dodgertown in this community. So, yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Thank
well,
you.
I hope to see all you guys on Thursday. All right. Thanks, Yvonne.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Fleury.
I just want to caution you, I mean, there are always unintended consequences to these things. I mean, the football sounds good, but they may try to go into other areas. I can see pretty soon, your call replace the commissioner. Tuesday mornings, we're going to have a staff recommendation and voting from the ether. Yeah, we won't be needed. So just understand what's happening next.
Isn't that like charter government light?
Pure democracy.
Survivor Commission. Speaking of which, you do have that, the obstacle course package. Okay.
We might have to time it close to the ribbon cutting.
I was afraid of that, yes. All righty. So we will now move on to business here. We have a lot of minutes to approve, March 6th, 13/20, and April 3 and April 10th. I'll be glad to accept all of those in one motion.
Approval across the board.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fleury, second by Commissioner Adams, to move all of the minutes. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Informational items, just the county venue event, again, very full, very active, lots of things going on, so check that out. And Commissioner Adams, you have 2 community events scheduled. I see that. Very good. Moving on to the consent agenda. Commissioners, does anybody wish to pull anything for further discussion?
Yes, 8V, Mr. Chairman.
8V, okay. Anyone else? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to have a consent agenda item pulled for additional discussion?
Move approval as
Oh,
amended.
wait, just hang on. Yes, sir.
I don't know if the Historical Society preservation was part of the agenda, but I would like to comment on that, if I could. Or is that just an award?
That was just a proclamation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so no one else from the public to pull consent? Okay, commissioners?
Move approval as amended.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Flesher, second by Commissioner Zork, to approve consent agenda as amended. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries 5-0. Commissioner Zork, item V, please.
Yes, hi. Under item V, Mr. Chairman, mainly item number 1 regarding the building department, the budget amendment for $350,000. I would presume if our expenditures for the additional outside private providers that our revenue side should be in excess of the budget transfer amount?
That is correct. We do have additional revenues over the budget that would fund this increase in expense, because there where you have more workload, obviously you have that revenue stream that goes along with it. So this would be funded by fees.
And just so everyone in the audience and those watching at home, that the building department is an enterprise fund. There's no tax dollars used to run that. They pay their own portion of utilities, operating expenses, attorney's fees, et cetera. So this is a completely standalone expense that has no effect to the taxpayers. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll move for approval.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Zork, seconded by Commissioner Flesher, to approve item 8V. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Commissioner Zork. We have no items under constitutional officer, so that moves us to public hearings. And the next item is a request by HF Properties, LLC, to rezone plus or minus 11.96 acres from CL, which is Limited Commercial District, to CG, General Commercial District, for property located south of 73rd Street, north of 71st Street, west of U.S. Highway 1, and east of Old Dixie Highway. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding. The parties to the proceeding are Indian River County and HF Properties, LLC, the applicant. At this point, Commissioners, I'll ask you if you have had any ex parte communications, site visits, or independent investigations. And Commissioner Flesher, we'll start with you, sir.
No, none that I'm aware of, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Fleury.
None that I recall, thank you.
And I have none. Commissioner Adams?
Nope.
And Commissioner Zork?
None.
Thank you. And also, Commissioners, I'd like you to confirm that you have an open mind and are able to base your decision on the evidence presented in applicable law. Commissioner Zork?
I can and will.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams?
Certainly.
And I can and will. Commissioner Sorry.
Can and will, thank you.
And Commissioner Fleischer.
I can and will.
Very good. At this point, we will open the public hearing. And is there anyone that wants to speak on this matter? Even if you're not decided yet, if you would please go ahead and stand, and the clerk will swear you in if you wish to testify to this item.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. We will start off with a presentation by county staff, and good morning, Stan Bowling, our Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This particular zoning request is to rezone from one type of commercial district to another, CL limited commercial to CG general commercial. You can see from this aerial, generally located between US 1 and Old Dixie Highway, pretty much a commercial corridor along US 1. This is in the Central County area. This particular site lies between 73rd Street and existing public unpaved but graded public road. And down here, 71st Street, which is paved, that connects Old Dixie Highway to US 1. And again, it's just under 12 acres, generally not developed, essentially vacant. A number of different zoning districts and uses around this particular property, but all the properties between US 1 and Old Dixie in this area are commercially zoned. There are, again, as you can see, a number of vacant properties and the railroad and Old Dixie Highway, but also a concrete plant up here kind of northwest of the site. We do have some very minor commercial a little bit further to the north, and we have residential behind the commercial that's on the east side of US 1 in this particular area. The purpose is to secure the CG zoning district, which has a few more uses than the CL district, and I'll go into that in just a moment. Just a reminder that regardless of whether it's the existing zoning district or the one that's proposed, any development on this site would be subject to our special corridor development regulations, and those deal with a lot of aesthetic issues. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing last month, actually in March, and voted to recommend that the board approve this request. Some of the differences between the CG zoning district, which is requested, in the existing CL district. The CL district is limited to mostly retail type of uses, professional offices, but it does have some intense commercial development such as convenience stores with fuel sales. The CG district allows those same types of uses, but also a broader spectrum of retail and also business services type of uses and sales of boats and automobiles and those types of services. The special corridor regulations that would apply under either district deal with the aesthetics for buildings and landscaping, signs and lighting, and also require pedestrian connections to public sidewalk network. This particular site is outlined here, again, 73rd Street here toward the top, 71st Street toward the bottom, US 1 here on the right, and Old Dixie Highway on the left. And what you see in the red is all commercial industrial land use. So this is a kind of a commercial industrial corridor that goes all along US 1. You can see the residential designations further to the east on the other side of US 1, low density residential and different type of low density residential, and further to the west of this site. But all around this site it is commercial industrial designated. In terms of the zoning pattern in this area, this site again is zone CL. It's located between US 1 and Old Dixie Highway, and we have CL in that particular area, but also CH and further south general commercial as well on the west side of US 1. On the east side of US 1, we also have some what I'd call remnant heavy commercial, but more you see on the east side the limited commercial and then residential to the east. You can also see from this slide we have IG, our general industrial district, along the railroad tracks in this particular area. And again, the proposed rezoning is shown in orange here is to general commercial. And again, in this particular area, we have a number of uses, and we see kind of a transition from residential areas that are a little bit further away from the US 1, kind of Old Dixie corridor, and we have a mix, really. And in staff's opinion, really CL or CG would be appropriate on this particular site. We did, with this rezoning request, look at a number of criteria: concurrency, consistency with the comprehensive plan and the land development regulations, environmental impact, and compatibility as well. With respect to concurrency, there are a number of capacity in certain facilities that are looked at. And in this particular case, since they're going from one type of commercial to another, there's no concurrency required or a test at this point in time. However, if and when they come in with a development project on this site, there would be a concurrency test at that time. As far as consistency with the comprehensive plan, a number of policies we highlighted in staff's report that this request is consistent with inside the urban service area, the appropriate land use designation, and also looking at the policies that guide the type of commercial development, certain zoning district. Policy 1.43, I know with the last rezoning we took a pretty hard look at this particular set of criteria. And generally what we see actually in this regard that the CG district meets more of these criteria than the CL district, and we did outline that in staff's report because of separation provided by Old Dixie Highway and US 1 and also some industrial further to the west. This rezoning is consistent with the county land development regulations and some of our standards for review for rezonings. With respect to environmental impacts, we really see no difference between this site developed as CL, existing zoning, or the proposed rezoning. The impacts would be similar, so no impacts from the actual rezoning request itself. With respect to compatibility, I already mentioned some of the uses that are around it and the separations provided by US 1 and Old Dixie and the FEC Railroad to the west. To the north, we have 73rd Street. There is a single-family home that's located, would be across from the northwest corner of this particular site. That's a non-conforming use, but it's a home that's been there for many decades, and there is a residence there. It's about 1/3 of an acre in size, that particular site. The rest is vacant around it to the north. Also, in terms of compatibility, although there is some residential development further to the east of US 1, it is separated by some limited commercial and then US 1 itself, so there is separation there. But again, commercial or industrial surrounding it in all directions. Staff's conclusion is that the requested zoning is compatible with the surrounding uses, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, and it's an area that's deemed suitable for commercial development. So staff supports the request. Staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend the board approve the rezoning request by adopting the ordinance that's attached to the agenda item. I'd be glad to answer questions that you all might have.
Thank you, Stan. Commissioners, any questions of staff? Okay. Seeing none, is there a presentation by the applicant? Good morning, Wesley. If you give your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing us to be here this morning. My name is Wesley Mills with Mills Short and Associates. I'd like to thank Mr. Bowling and planning staff. I think that they've done an excellent job with the report, so we have no presentation at this point. One item that I would like to point out, in addition to the other corridor requirements for this project, we would also have buffering requirements in that the site has roadway frontages along all the sides. So we would have some additional buffering requirements with this project because of the roads fronting each side. So if there's any questions that you guys have of me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions of the applicant? Seeing none, thank you, Wesley. At this point, is there anyone from the public that wishes to comment on this public hearing? Good morning. Your name and you could use that podium, sir. That's fine. Yep. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is Evan Esposito. I represent clean energy within the county. I would like to comment.
Yeah. Are you commenting on this?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll need to have the clerk swear you in, please.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Help me God. Good morning.
Good morning.
I would just like to comment on the environmental impact statement.
Okay.
Being that there is none, I would like to see what the environmental impact statement says about polluting local waterways, and if there is any impact on waterways. I think that the public would also agree that there should be no commercial buildings on the site.
Okay. Normally, when the applicant will come in for the, what we call the site plan, which is where they actually designate where things go and where the parking will be, the building, driveways, all that, they will be required to put in a stormwater retention system. So, and there's a formula based on the square footage of the footprint, and the stormwater system will have to be designed to maintain any of that stormwater runoff on site and be treated on site before it goes anywhere. So
That happens after the approval for the rezoning. I would ask the council to have the environmental impact statement done prior to approval for the rezoning. Right now, it's zoned as residential property.
no, it's commercial.
It is considered commercial?
Yes, sir.
But
It's light commercial, and the rezoning is to general commercial.
that's a big difference.
It's a difference, but it'd be a lot bigger if we were going to like heavy commercial, would be, in my mind, a bigger difference than going from light to general.
Right, and if I could comment, Mr. Chairman, with respect to development impacts, same open space requirements, same amount of pavement or building area, same type of uses in terms of retail buildings or fuel sales allowed in both zoning districts. So those aspects would be no different. And you're exactly right. These are really sort of, couldn't really do an environmental impact statement on the difference between the two because there really would be none in terms of development potential. But as you mentioned, there would be a scrutiny of a stormwater management system at such time that an actual project comes in. I'd be glad to take this gentleman's contact information and contact him if and when we get a development plan in.
I would ask that the council delay the vote until the environment impact statement is secured and you can see any future uses of the property, whether it could be some type of fuel source that could pollute the local ecosystem, and wait on approval until the EIP is done.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to comment on the public hearing in front of us? Okay, seeing that ample opportunity has been given. Stan, any final comments?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mills, any final comments? Okay. And the clerk has all of the documents and evidence that has been presented today. The clerk is good? Okay. At this point, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, your pleasure.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Flesher, seconded by Commissioner Zork, to approve the rezoning request. Commissioners, all in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Stan. That moves us to public discussion items. 10B1 was pulled at the request of the applicant. 10B2 is a request to speak from Wayne St. Pierre of St. Pierre Construction, Inc. regarding extra expense for sewer tap from Indian River County Utility. I don't see Mr. St. Pierre. Oh, there he is. Yeah, okay. Yeah, come on up, please. You can, either podium is fine. Sir, if you just go ahead and give your name and address again for the record.
Morning.
Good morning. Yeah, that's fine. One for the clerk. Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Wayne St. Pierre. I'm the owner of St. Pierre Construction, Inc. I've been a contractor here in town since 1984, and I'd like to go over the topics and issues that I have on a project site that's located at 1125 27th Avenue Southwest. The first thing I want to explain to you is the 5 sheets of paper you have in front of you. Exhibit A is just outlining my issue that I have with the Indian River County Utility Department. The email was the solution that they had given me by email from the Indian River County Building Department or Utility Department. Exhibit B If you look at that piece of paper, it is the email that was approval of a site 4 years prior next door. And what they did is they decided to approve Indian River County Utility to do the sewer tap based on the fact that the asphalt on 27th Avenue covers about 3 to 4 feet of the sewer main at that area. Rather than the client absorb the road closures, the MOT, and the extra expense, the Indian River County Utility Department approved to come out and do a tap and a valve on that property. The property next door, if you look at, page 3 on that just shows the impact fees that were paid, which is almost $11,000. The impact fees that were paid 4 years prior for the exact same service right next door was $4,354 cheaper. So in 4 years, the impact fees for water and sewer have went up dramatically. And on top of that, they're wanting to have the consumer still absorb more extra expense based on the fact that they've buried a sewer line under the asphalt of 27th Avenue. Page 4 outlines the extra cost that would be involved on doing the solution that Indian River County Utilities has come up with by tracking 210 feet down the right-of-way on the lot to the south of the project that is in question. This 210-foot track is going to come at an expense of almost $4,400. The topics that I have is the fact that 4 years ago, the reason that the case was won and they decided to go ahead and do the sewer tap for me is they told me at that time that when Majestic Oaks widened the road on 27th Avenue, for whatever reason, there was something that was missed there, and the sewer was covered. And also to let you know, AT&T cable is covered by almost 5 feet of asphalt there. Therefore, I have no wired service to my property at all. I have to deal with everything through satellite dish or Florida broadband. I pay higher money for phone service, internet service, and all of that because everything is coming to my house through satellite, because AT&T will not tie into their line because it's 4 feet underneath the asphalt. I did not approve the asphalt to be extended or widened or burying any kind of utilities at the time, and this was back in early 2000s when this was done, when Majestic Oaks subdivision was being developed. At that time, whoever approved the asphalt widening, for whatever reason, just disregarded the fact that there was a sewer main and an AT&T cable that both got buried across the entire 668 feet of the property. The Indian River County Utility Department has decided not to allow any more tapping of their 4-inch main. So basically what they're saying is, we want your impact fees, but we're not going to allow you to tap into the 4-inch main. We want you to travel 210 feet now down the south right-of-way of the neighbor's property next door, which brings up another issue since Indian River County Utilities has prevented clients from extending water or sewer down the fronts of anyone's property, because I have asked several times. Up in Vera Lake Estates, for instance, there's only a handful of water lines in that subdivision. They used to, years ago, allow you to extend those water lines, and you could just trench right down the front of your neighbor's property or 2 or 3 of your neighbor's property and bring water service with a flex pipe down to a water meter in front of your property. They have since stopped doing that, and their reason for doing that is they said that they were having too many issues with clients that have the properties that do not want the water meter but the trench is being trenched right across the front of their property to supply a water meter. So they have completely stopped doing that in VLE. If they extend this line down in front of someone else's line just because they don't want to allow a tap, that's no different than if the sewer line ends a 1/16 of a mile before your property. Now they're going to force you to be able to go and tie into that sewer line instead of putting in a septic tank. The difference between a septic tank and a sewer line: septic tank with all permits and fees, typically about $5,500. A lift station going into a force main, all the impact fees and the total is about $27,000. So $27,000, $5,500. It's a huge difference. It's a huge impact on the consumer of the property that is being built and sold, and I think it's an unnecessary impact. If I was not able to tap my property out front for whatever reason, I shouldn't have been forced to tie onto the sewer or the water at that time, and I should have been able to just do a septic tank. I don't understand the possibility of trenching down out in front of another property when the Indian River County reserves the right to purchase 40 feet of that property out front, which is not only going to cover that lateral line for 210 feet, which is only a 2-inch PVC pipe, but that would cover that line. That would cover every meter can on that street. So if they're not going to allow me to tap in, it's going to create issues later on. I see it as a Band-Aid. I see it as something that is not going to fare in the future when the widening of 27th becomes necessary. A perpendicular tie-in to the sewer line is much easier to address than a 210-foot extension parallel to the street is not easier to address when it comes into the fact that the road is going to be widened. And it's not a question of if the road's going to be widened, it's just when. It will be widened eventually one day down the road. I know for a fact that that road is extremely busy with a lot of traffic, and it's not going to be able to sustain a 2-lane highway forever. I would love it to stay a 2-lane highway. I live on it. I have lived on it on several homes on 27th, but I don't see that it's going to stay a 2-lane highway. So I don't like the Band-Aid. I don't like the fact that they're expecting the customer to absorb the cost of tying in for a mistake or an issue that was not addressed back when Majestic Oaks was widening for the turn lane that they have in front of their subdivision. At that time, this whole thing should have been addressed. They should have done lateral tie-ins with valves to accommodate any properties that could or would pop up in the future. If they didn't do that at that time, I don't see why the clients now have to pay that price. And what I'm asking for the county commissioners is to vote in my favor to support the fact that I should not pay any more than any other person that is doing a sewer tie-in that is on a sewer line that's in the right-of-way of any major street. And I think this issue, if this takes off, it's going to open the door for VLE lot owners that are 2 lots away from the water, and they're going to say, well, so-and-so did it. I own lots in VLE, in fact. If I'm going to do this 210-foot extension to tie into a sewer, then that's going to open up the door for what they used to allow you to do up in VLE and other subdivisions. If the sewer line ends down the street, you have the right to tap into it. Or this could also open it up in another way, causing the Indian River County Utilities to have the right to tell the client that doesn't even have a sewer line out in the front of his property that, hey, you got to go now 210 feet down the road and tie into that sewer line. And it's always been that if you don't have a sewer line out in front of your road, you're granted health department septic tank permits. So I think this is going to stir up more issues than it will resolve issues. And I think the biggest resolve, and from what I can tell, Majestic Oaks has a tie-in, a tap, and my personal house, St. Pierre Construction, the one that they want to come down and tie into my meter, which I'm fine with that too. I just think it's a Band-Aid. I think that there's going to be a future road widening, and that 210 feet is parallel with the road. It's not going to be a good deal. Not for the owner of that project that's in question. So I hope that you guys can understand my plight and make a decision that would be in the fairness of every taxpayer in town.
Thank you.
Thank you
Commissioners,
for
any
your time.
questions of Mr. St. Pierre?
I have one. Wayne, on
Yes.
page 4, the last page, it looks like it's a proposal from a septic company. Is that to go
That's just
perpendicular?
Just to do the extra yes, because
so
of
that's
the
the short-
MOTs, a road closure.
Right.
You got to do a lane closure. It took the county utility department about 7 hours 4 years ago to do the lane closures. Of course, the lane closure started right when school was letting in. Made it even worse because traffic was backed up from the intersection of Oslo all the way down to 13th Street, which if you're familiar with the area, that's quite a long distance. And yes, that last one is a proposal from Reliable Septic Services to do the extension with the MOT and the lane closure as required by the DOT.
Okay, and one thing that I received late yesterday, after 4 o'clock yesterday, which you may or may not have as of yet, was, or maybe you received it prior, but it was a couple different options and a lower cost option where if the county installed the line.
Oh, I didn't receive that because nobody wanted to actually send me anything in writing.
Okay.
Everyone else heard about it, but I did not hear about that. So the county utility department was kind of keeping that from me. I did hear about it from Peter O'Brien. He mentioned to me that they would do it for, I think, $3,100 or something of that sort.
2689 is the.
Oh, see, there's two numbers then that I've been told because it was 3,100 a week ago.
There's a.
So it's coming down as it comes down. But the point being there, my major concern there is I've got 210 feet of parallel line running down the road out in front, and that opens up the door to what's going to happen when the street widens. How are they going to are they going to just bury that like they've done everything else on that street? Put it out in the middle of the highway so that way if the house next door has a problem with that line under the street, then there's road closures to a major highway coming through Vero, and you've got a lot of stuff that's going to just open up a can of worms. I don't agree with the extension when they can just go 3.5, 4 feet under the street, tap, just like they did 4 years ago, be done in 6 hours' time, and then it's a done deal. The valve's brought in. It's a lateral valve that's coming off the line, and it's going to come in onto the property, allowing for the street widening. You could widen that road by maybe almost a lane and a half, or a turning lane and another lane. You could widen that road quite a bit before they'd even have to move any of those valves or put those valves in the middle of the street. But if they do the parallel between the pavement right now and the property line, it's only 7.5 feet. So they're going to be putting that line at about 6 feet off the pavement. Any widening of that road whatsoever is going to cover that line, even if they do a bike path.
If it got down to it, the thing that we have that you have not seen yet, I'll give you my copy here if you want. It has option 3 where the county utilities department installed the line for 2689, which is, I'm guessing, Jason, is that running it the parallel version?
That would be the only version that I was mentioned to by Jesse Rollins. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's options 2 and 3 on there are the parallel line.
Okay. If it came down to it, would you prefer to have you pay for the perpendicular cut in at 4,500, or have the county utilities do it for the 2,600, but it's the parallel which runs on the western edge?
I would prefer the county to do what they did 4 years ago and do the tap with the valve perpendicular to the main sewer line under the street, do the road closures and the asphalt repair. just like they did 4 years ago. And the reason they did that 4 years ago is for that main reason. I'm a client, I'm the customer. They buried the line. They should have said to Majestic Oaks, you know, this AT&T line needs to be rerouted, this sewer line needs to be rerouted, and then we'll let you do your street widening. For them to widen the street and cause all the other residential neighbors grief, I don't see why I'm paying more than anyone else that's out there tying onto a sewer line. Typically, and in fact, when I brought this to their attention 4.5 years ago, they didn't even know the sewer line was under the pavement. They thought the sewer line was on the side of the road. It wasn't until I brought them out and showed them that their valves right over top of the sewer line are 2 to 3 feet underneath the asphalt. At that time, they realized, okay, we have a sewer line that's under the street. I couldn't tell you why they sided with me and decided they were going to do the tap and do the extension, but why would they side with me then, do the tap because they've buried the sewer line, and not now? I don't quite understand it. But I do have lots in VLE, and if this goes south and it does not go in my favor, I will be wanting to put water, and I want to add water to those lots. So this kind of opens up that door for me as well, because if we're allowed to go out in front of somebody's property 210 feet up in VLE is equivalent to 5 lots. So I can really bring water a long distance up there in VLE off their main water supply lines, just because now they're allowing these lines to be done out in front of other people's property on their right-of-way. Kind of opens up the door, if you ask me.
I think just a couple of things here, Commissioner Zork, just to clarify. One is, if you look at the drawing we have, what the county would be doing is the red line, which would be within our right-of-way.
Well, they'd only be doing the red line up to the property where that curve is, where that turn is.
Right, but
they would just be doing from there to my...
Right, but let me just finish, Mr. St. Pierre, okay? Because you were implying that we were doing this on other people's property, and that's not what we're proposing. We're proposing to run 210 feet within the county right-of-way. Now, it's more expensive to do that because, as you mentioned, you have the maintenance of traffic and that issue. You could run the 210 feet cheaper on the adjoining property, but then you would probably want to secure some type of easement for the future of that. But what the county is proposing, and that's why this wouldn't apply to Vero Lake Estates, is that we are running the line within the right-of-way along 27th Avenue. So if you look at the big survey drawing we have here, it'd be that red line running down parallel to the right-of-way. And then going back to 2014, this was all one lot at the time. So when Mr. St. Pierre first came in, he was building his residence on the southern part of the property, and we did run a tap for him there. After that is when he subdivided the lot and is now building a second house. So at the time, we did provide sewer to the entire lot that Mr. St. Pierre owned. And then just and Vinnie may want to speak to this, but I do know that we do have a ordinance in the county utilities that if there are extenuating or unusual circumstances and the cost to provide either a water or sewer tap is more than the $400 or $500, our ordinance does allow us to charge that additional cost onto the applicant. So just that's kind of the why we are passing that charge on.
The only issue that I have with that is they still have to do the MOT and the DOT lane closure no matter which way they go. So doing the 210 foot of extension line or doing a 15-foot tie-in to the sewer line and a tap. And the fact that they said, well, they've got enough taps on that street. I see Majestic Oaks tap, I see my tap. I've not seen any other tap. That sewer line only goes down to 13th Street Southwest, turns and goes back around into the backside of Ansley Park subdivision. If I'm tying into my sewer tap on my property, or I'm tying directly into the sewer line, I'm not adding any more sewage to that line, because I'm either adding it all through one 2-inch line, or I'm adding two 2-inch lines, and you're getting the exact same amount of sewage water. So for them not to want to tap onto the sewage line, I don't understand what the problem is here, because I think that it's quicker and easier to do the tie-in under the street. I've seen this done many, many times, and that 210 is going to require the same lane closures, the same cost, MOT-wise, as any other tap that they would do.
Commissioner Adams, you had some questions for Vincent?
Vinny, I have a couple questions because I'm not familiar with this project or this area. So the proposal that you have provided to Mr. St. Pierre is the red line is, I don't think you have this, but.
I don't have any of the documents.
Here, you want my copy?
Give you mine, so yes.
I'll share with Peter.
And it's only the red line from the property corner, that front corner of the property, down the 210 feet, which is the blue line above it. It shows the 210 foot.
Okay.
Just wanted you to be aware of that.
Thank you.
He would be Mr. responsible.
So Mr. St. Pierre would be responsible for the red line to his property line.
Correct.
And then the county would be responsible from the red line over to the blue line. But we would charge Mr. St. Pierre the cost of doing that. Is that what I'm understanding?
What Commissioner Bryan had said, for the record, Vincent Burke, Director Utility Services. Typically on these non-standard connections, we have something in our rate that basically outlines the cost of connection for residential property at $500. There's also some additional costs if, for instance, you have to go under a roadway, or if there's a tap, or if there's a jack and bore, and those are cost plus. So I think Mr. St. Pierre likes to have his cake and eat it too. I think he's confusing some of the issues because back in 2014, staff acquiesced to political pressures to try to make this thing happen. In fact, he probably got away with a $4,000 install for $500. And at the end of the day, we are here to let you know that there's a real intangible cost associated with that. And if Mr. St. Pierre is not paying for that, our ratepayers are paying for that cost. What we would propose is either to do a line 210 feet to the subject property or to do a tap. In our case, we prefer not to do the tap for a variety of reasons. One is Public Works likes their nice shiny asphalt, and we don't want to disturb that. Secondarily, you do have MOT and DOT issues to worry about, as well as a road bond if a contractor chooses to do that. If we do the work, certainly we can save on some of those costs. But at the end of the day, we had proposed, I think, a valid issue not to tap the road, not to chew up the asphalt, but to run a line 210 feet, a 2-inch poly line up to the subject property. The numbers that I gave Mr. Brown last night were probably not shared with Mr. St. Pierre because it was at the last minute. At the end of the day, I want the board to know that when Mr. St. Pierre came in 2014, we were looking at one lot, as Commissioner Bryan had said. We would love to have known that he was going to subdivide this, because then we would have put that tap a little bit further north, probably put a spit service in there and designed it appropriately, unlike some of the temporary service connection issues that he's confusing the issue with via Lake Estates. We don't like to do what we call extensions to extensions on our utility system. We like to minimize, A, the number of taps because those are failure points, and secondarily, we want to make sure that we design the system with the future involved. If the roadway is moved at some future point and those lines are in the right-of-way that we have to maintain and own and operate, then the cost will be on us, not the homeowners, to take care of any and all relocations of the line. We would still need to get a right-of-way permit from the Public Works Department in order to put that line in place. It would be on a tracer system. It would be marked, and it would be identified in the as-builts if a contractor, AT&T or somebody else, needs to do work in the right-of-way. So I'm certainly available for any questions that the board may have, but Mr. St. Pierre, again, would like to go back to the $500 and have us utility do that cost to tap that line. But at the end of the day, I think that's a false number because it does not illustrate some of the real intangible costs associated with this project that would have to be paid for. That's one of the reasons why we're doing a rate study, because our costs have not changed since 1999. We have to identify these types of things where our other ratepayers are not then subsidizing costs for other folks connecting to the system.
Thank you. That gives me a lot more information.
I would also say for the last part is Mr. St. Pierre would love to have county water, and he has done the very thing that he's rallying against right now. He has paid the additional cost because the water's on the east side of that 27th roadway running north-south, and he has paid for the tap, he has paid for that line going underneath the roadway, and he has brought water service to his house. I wish that I had had an opportunity to talk to Mr. St. Pierre outside of this forum, but certainly I have not been contacted by him to be able to try to work some of these details out. So I think at the end of the day, if he's willing and able to pay for the water connection taps, then obviously the sewer is a complex connection, which would be outside of the normal $500 rate that was envisioned for a typical connection for a home.
Okay, thank you.
Jason?
Mr. Chairman, if I could add, the tearing up the roadway, that's one of the things that I hear all the time. Oh, look, the county's gone and tearing up a roadway after it's a nice new pavement, and then you do it. So we try to avoid tearing up the roadway when we can. It's not an aesthetic thing. It's something that contributes to the deterioration of the road and the road quality. Also, speaking to the road widening, we don't have widening at 27th Avenue in our 5-year plan. I don't think we'll be widening 27th Avenue for many years to come. I can tell you I started at the county 20 years ago today, and we had millions of dollars set aside to widen 43rd Avenue, and it ain't done yet. So, and that would be coming before 27th Avenue. So I think we're a long ways off. I'll also add that when you do a road widening, it wouldn't be just in front of Mr. St. Pierre's property that you frequently have utility conflicts. Mr. St. Pierre addressed the AT&T situation. It's normal that you may have to move some utilities when you do a road widening, so that would be addressed and paid for with the road widening project at that time. And at the end of the day, the ordinance is set up that if the cost to do the tap is more than the $500, we are to charge the customer for that, and that is because without that, the existing ratepayers would be subsidizing the connection. So this is all to protect the ratepayers. Anything that's a break is basically a subsidy from the ratepayers. So we have a responsibility to not have the ratepayers bear these costs for an individual connection. Thank you.
I'd like to address that if I could.
Yes.
Part of that you said is when you do widen a road, of course, you do not want to cover up any utilities. You just said that point blank. My idea, well, you did. You said when the road does get widened, of course, you're not going to cover up utilities. They're going to be moved to accommodate.
I think what I said was it is normal to have to move some utilities if there's a...
Correct. If the utilities were moved back in 04 or 03 when Majestic Oaks was allowed their permit to widen the street, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. And I would have a landline to my house, which I do not have. I have no landlines to my house. I work off the need for only one service that can be provided in Indian River County, which is Florida Broadband. Internet service there, their cheapest service is $79. I can get service for a quarter of that price if I had landline, but I don't have a landline. I'll never have a landline. That's because AT&T said their landline's 3 feet under the asphalt and they're not going to tie into it. So I'm kind of stuck without that landline for that main reason. Everything's working off satellite for my property. If those issues were addressed then, I wouldn't have any issues now.
You know, I appreciate you have an issue with AT&T, but stay focused on the sewer hookup, please.
But in reference to what he was saying is, you know, I never got a chance to speak with him, didn't even know he existed. I spoke with Jesse Rollins, and I spoke with by email to Ajuna. I guess that's how you pronounce it. And that's the only two that I spoke to. I was never given a chance to speak to anyone else. I did not know about this price cost, and a week ago the price was $3,100, and they would put the line in. So the price is going all over the place. I wasn't part of any of those conversations or any of those emails or any of that correspondence. I think that I should have been, because if I could have been a part of that, we could have maybe resolved this without coming here and having to have to deal with this. So in reality, I didn't want to come here. I'd rather right now be out there making money, because in here I'm not making any money at all. And it seems like I'm going to be out money. But I did not know of him, did not have, nobody called me up or emailed me and said, hey, this is the person you need to talk to. He's the one that's going to, try to give you your options. Didn't get a single option other than one option, and that was it.
And then
So I think that was a little unfair on their part.
Just to clarify, I did have a personal meeting with Mr. St. Pierre. I did meet with staff on this. The price, when I called you back with the price, was $3,454 was the number
Yeah, that's right.
I gave you that they had sketched out real quickly. So
Correct.
I'm assuming they've done a little bit more look at it, and they were able to come up with the price that we have before us now.
What was the price now?
If I could clarify on the prices?
Yeah.
The price now is $3,124. That's using the county's utility labor contract. And then the lower price, the $2,689, would be county utility staff installing. So it's a lower cost to have our county utility staff install, although we would lose the time there.
Now, what does you said $2,600?
And $89.
What does the $2,689 cover? Are there any other fees involved with this?
The 2689 would be to tie into the existing 2-inch. Can you pull up?
Is this something that they could have a meeting and discuss? I mean, do we need to go into all that right now?
So that would be to tie into the existing line that's already tapped into the force main, the 4-inch force main that's on the west side of 27th, and to run a line north approximately 210 feet to the southern portion of the 11, I believe it's 1125 27th Street. So that would be parts, pieces, material, and labor to install that line. It would be in the right-of-way, not in the vehicular traffic. We would get a right-of-way permit from the Public Works Department and take care of the logistics to install that line for $26.89.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add for clarification. Mr. St. Pierre says he doesn't know that Vincent Burke existed. I will point to page 1 of the information he provided that has at the bottom of page 1 the last paragraph, which appears to be an excerpt of an email from Jesse Rowland. Hello, Wayne. I met with Arjuna, Director Vincent Burke, and Operations Manager Terry Southard, and it was determined that we don't want any new taps, and it continues on. And then at the end, please let us know if you have any questions or concerns regards Jesse Rowland. So
Yeah,
I think there was
think
a
we're just-
venue offered that he could have met rather than here in the commission meeting. So I just want to make it clear that county staff is not sending people to, not telling them they don't have options if they're unhappy with what they're hearing from frontline staff, and directing them to come to the Board of County Commissioners. So that characterization is unfair, and I need to correct the record.
I think Commissioner Adams is right.
And I retract that.
Excuse me, sir. We generally don't take votes on public items. Right. And I think we've hashed out this issue. I think they've got a path forward. So I'm just going to suggest that Mr. Burke gets together with Mr. St. Pierre. If they can agree on something, fine. If they can't, then in a reasonable time, Vinnie schedules this as an item on the agenda for us to make a determination. But I think we've done all we possibly could reasonably do today.
I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. St. Pierre. It's past 10:30, and we normally take a break then, so we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We will be back at 10:55. Next, under public discussions, is request to speak from EE Solar regarding requests of the county mandate solar energy on all new structures over 2,000 square feet within the county of Indian River. Good morning. Your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Good morning. My name is Evan Esposito of 415 27th Drive, Vero Beach, Florida, 32968-2002. I'm here on the record today to speak about a county ordinance that I would like to mandate county-wide, Indian River County, Treasure Coast. We've all seen a lot of die-off of the fish and wildlife. Ecosystems have been crushed because of overdevelopment within the county. New development is springing up everywhere as we speak. And I'm here to put on the record that a county ordinance should be implemented just like Miami. A young lady, just fresh out of high school, went before the local municipality there, and she
mandated a county ordinance that states that every 1,000 square foot of sunlit roof space should require solar on all new construction. There's got to be a way to offset some of the pollution that's going to be produced with this overdevelopment. The way we offset that is through solar. Solar offsets carbon in a big way. You can actually calculate how much carbon is offset when you use solar panels. I don't know if anybody received my email, but I sent an email to the council before my appearance here today. I'd just like to go over it real quickly. Does everybody have a copy of that?
I did get a copy. Did the clerk get a copy of it?
Yes. And thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Does everybody have a copy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay. The header on the agenda reads, new homes will require solar panels in Indian River County. Under the rules, new residential construction will require 10 electric generating solar panels to be installed per 1,000 square feet of sunlit roof area, with firefighter walkways offset 16 inches around perimeter of the array, or 3.3 kilowatts per 2,000 square feet of living space, whichever is less. If the house is built under existing trees, the shade may exempt it, obviously because solar does not work that well in shade. Solar photovoltaic simulates trees through the reduction of carbon dioxide, as I just said. The solar mandate will offset destruction of local ecosystems and pollution. Your annual emissions, as we speak, on each home, residence, not commercial, just residential property, is huge. Each structure within this county is producing 40,631 pounds of carbon dioxide, 31 pounds of sulfur dioxide, 23 pounds of nitrogen oxides. This is huge environmental impact to our local areas. Fisheries, which is a $3 billion industry locally. It's one of the leading industries, boating. This impacts everything. My action items that I would like to present today is a vote to approve solar mandate on new construction, similar to legislation already passed in Miami. I would like to historically preserve land use to protect local ecosystems. I would like to ban all solar leasing, which is a catch-22. It was just passed in the state of Florida. The House approved solar leasing as an attempt to spur solar growth, but I would like to ban it inside Indian River County because it's not good for I know the business, and I know it's not good for our homeowners. I'd like to ban solar leasing. Just for the record, I need to say that. It is legal now inside the state of Florida, but the local municipality has jurisdiction to combat that. I would like to fine all non-compliant new structures that do not have solar, electric generating equipment. I would require FPL, who I've worked with in the past, to install what's called a bi-directional net meter. Similar to a smart meter, but it can, when you produce energy on the roof, it will actually calculate it as a credit towards your bill. So it's almost like an ATM machine. You produce monetary gains on your electric bill through a bi-directional meter. I would like to require FPL to credit any surplus energy created with solar to the end user at a rate of 23 cents per kilowatt hour, or cash reimbursement at a rate of 11.5 cents per kilowatt hour. That's what we currently pay in the county for electric costs, 11.5 cents. This is already passed in the Florida State Senate. Allow property tax abatement for 100% of the total cost of solar equipment, not including labor. Number 9, require monitoring of all solar equipment countywide. I don't know if you know about the federal law, but the federal law has LEED certifications on new buildings that comply with environmental standards nationally. This requirement would be new in the fact that we would monitor
the carbon offset within the county. And we may be able to get more money for the county for green initiatives, because once we show the federal government that we're producing clean energy within the county, the county rating will go up huge, because not only are residential properties rated and commercial properties rated, but all government properties are also rated through HERS. It's a special rating system that the government uses. And finally, number 10, this is important because everybody should know this countywide. Property tax appraiser shall increase the value of the new construction with solar by the amount of money saved on the electric over the 20-year life cycle of the solar panels. There's a mortgage calculator where you can increase the value of the house based on the annual savings using solar equipment multiplied by 20. It increases the value exponentially. So it's a win-win for the county, a win-win for the new construction builders. They were also notified about today, my presentation today. And I now notified the leasing company, Sunrun, that's trying to lease in the state. So I just wanted to let everybody know this is a way to stop the pollution, to help us with some of the detrimental effects of overbuilding.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Esposito? Sir, we generally don't take any formal action under public discussion items, but if there's any commissioner that wishes to bring this back, they can certainly bring it back under their matters for formal action.
When will that take place?
I don't know if any commissioner will do that or not.
Well, I spoke with Joe. I had a meeting about this about 2 months ago. Would you be willing to do that, Mr. Fletcher?
Not at this time.
For future?
I do have some reservations about it. Now, I'm glad I'll be happy to speak about it. You know, it's very interesting that we are the Sunshine State and we want to capitalize on the sun. I understand that. The technology is not to where it needs to be. It's not as efficient as it's purported to be. And in addition, the very virtue of putting something on your roof encourages roof damage. And a lot of folks who have done that have experienced the roof damage within 5 years, a quarter of the application of the system that goes on the roof. In addition, there is a tremendous cost factor, and as far as efficiency, if folks are able to pay it or purchase the system, that would be one avenue. But if they're not, the lease for the equipment that goes up on the roof offsets the cost factor. There truly is no savings to the resident who places that on their home. And I think it would drive the cost of residence construction upwards tremendously. So I don't, there are a lot of concerns that have to be vetted out.
Look at the case studies of Miami, because this would be, similar to that, and see if there was, what you're referring to as far as roof damage. I mean, when I have solar on my house, I have 7 kilowatts, and when I went to the building department, they mandated that I get a PE, which is an engineer, proof for 160 mile-an-hour wind speeds. Now, obviously, we all have seen Hurricane Maria. That was over 225 mile-an-hour wind speeds. So if you're concerned about the roof, maybe we could raise the wind speed to 225 miles an hour, similar to what happened with Puerto Rico. As far as the technology is on the forefront. It's 25-year guaranteed technology. My solar panels didn't go anywhere during Irma, Matthew, and it's I think we should look at the case with Miami and really see how it was implemented, and maybe we can try to imitate some of those green initiatives there. I think that it would be a win-win for the environment, number one, and also the homeowner, because they're increasing their home value. Now, if these home builders which I notified. I forget the name of that one home builder. He's local, GMH Homes. I spoke to the president. It was a county mandate. They would have to add it as an option. I mean, there is no option. It would be mandated that they would have to require the solar on those roof systems. And all those brand new homes that are selling for $250, they would immediately go up in value, upwards of $50,000 and $60,000. They would be worth more and easily financed. So the home builders, it's a win-win because they can get additional financing through the mortgage industry based on the increased value over 20 years. Because when you produce energy, you're not renting, you're owning your energy. You own your home, you're owning your energy, and it's producing guaranteed for 25 years annually, and that's how you can increase the value.
Good sales pitch, but I'll...
It's not, it's not sales, it's about, you know, environment. I mean, that's why they did it in Miami. It's because the environment that we want to protect. I mean, when you devastate trees like they've been doing in the county over and over, new land, all being developed, not even having environmental impact statements done, when you start doing that, what you're going to run into is you're going to run into problems in the environment. You're going to have excess runoff, excess sewage, excess carbon, all these things. And then when you don't do an environmental impact, what's going to happen is you're going to have down the road, you're going to have issues like this gentleman came here today. And he's going to say, and they're going to say, "Oh, I have to cover the fees for an impact statement," and the people in the county are going to end up picking up those fees if we don't do it.
With reservation, I will look into it further, but at this juncture, I am not going to state that we'll be bringing this back in any time in the near future.
You said you were for it when I met you, though.
No, I did not.
You didn't say you
No, I did not, sir.
we're
Please.
not going to
Thank you.
go back and forth.
I appreciate that.
I thought you said you were for it. That's why, you know, I thought I had a... Is there anybody that's for this legislation?
I'll just say a few words. I'm not for it. My background's in the single-family home building business, built hundreds and hundreds of homes here in Vero Beach. I've talked very much with a lot of the folks that are in the industry. There is one that's kind of capitalizing on it in a small fashion. In other words, when you look at who's pulling the most permits, they look at this when they hear the word mandate. If they want to offer something as an option, that's great. That's what the one company does. It's an option to have. Right. The cost that would be added to the cost of the home versus the cost of recovery under Florida Power and Light rates, I think is negligible at best, even hard to measure.
False information. That's bad information.
Well, that's your opinion, and that's
let him
fine.
speak. Mr. Esposito, I'm giving you your chance to speak. So
we have been, this commission has been very supportive of all the large-scale solar projects. I think we have 2 or 3 74.5 megawatt. That's like the size of a regular power plant that are now, 2 of those I believe are online, and with a third one planned, or if not under construction. So we're very supportive of solar projects where they make sense and a utility scale where it actually drives the rates down for Florida's utility customers. So the folks in the building industry would like to offer it as an option for those who want to pay the additional cost, but nobody wants to have anything mandated on them, and I stand with them as well.
What about if you go to the country of Israel?
Well, we're talking about Florida and the United States. And
in the entire country of Israel, they mandated solar on every residence in the country.
Well, that's great for them. I'm not moving there. So.
Yeah, Mr. Esposito, thank you, but I don't hear any of the commissioners willing to bring this up. So thank you for your time and presentation this morning.
No one will adopt it?
I'm not hearing it, no, sir.
What about future review, maybe some meetings?
You could certainly try to schedule meetings with the individual commissioners, yes, sir.
Okay.
That's certainly your...
I've also sent you emails regarding this for the past few years. So I just wanted to, I don't know if I maybe sent them to your assistant. Maybe you didn't get them, but I've been talking about this, you know, and a lot of people that went up to Capitol Hill yesterday.
Yep, Mr. Esposito, I think I've been pretty clear. Okay. If you wish to send additional communications, that's fine. But for today, I'm going to have to ask you to go ahead and step down, please. Thank you.
Thank
you. Public items, public notice items. Mr. Reingold, would you do the honors, please?
Thank you very much. We have a notice of a public hearing for May 8th, 2018. This is Mark Allmeter and Ian Plank's request for a special exception use approval for a private airstrip. This will be quasi-judicial in nature, and again, this will be a public hearing that will be held on May 8th, 2018. With that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you.
One question on that upcoming item. Do we have the, this is quasi-judicial, so you have to tell me if I can ask this question or not, or if you're allowed to answer it. Doesn't the FAA regulate the private airstrips? Like, we could say we want to do it, but don't they have to get blessing from somebody else other than us?
I believe there are additional regulations federally, but I think locally what we have is we have a special exception zoning requirement that goes along with that.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Next is the county administrator matters. Item A, the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company appeal from a decision of a county officer. Jason, did you want to address this first? Or is there someone from Goodyear here? Okay, very good. Well, Jason, why don't you go ahead and start, and then, sir, we'll certainly be glad to hear from you. Okay? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In late February, John King, Director of Emergency Services, received invoices for about $27,000 of tires from Goodyear Tire and Rubber. He had some questions about those invoices regarding make and model and whether there are purchases, and obviously there's been an investigation where Mr. Burkeen was charged regarding those tires. However, we did not get satisfactory answers to those requests. Mr. King denied the payment of those invoices. On March 16th of this year, Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company did appeal the decision of the Emergency Services Director in accordance with County Code to the County Administrator myself. On April 4th, I made a determination denying the appeal. Following that, on April 16th, Goodyear Tire and Rubber submitted an appeal of my decision as County Administrator, and per the code, this comes to the board for a determination is the next step. I have, in addition to some of the missing information that was supposed to be on the invoices, as well as some pricing differences between the Florida Sheriff's Association contract that those tires are purchased under, I have some questions that I think warrant answers prior to making any payment. I want to make sure that that there was no involvement from anyone at the Goodyear Tire and Rubber stores that may have been knowledgeable about what was happening beyond what has been indicated. I have a chart that shows, if you look, we have one vendor that I think Mr. Pettit represents both of them, but two different stores that we purchase tires for fire rescue. One is located on Miracle Mile, and in early December 2016, Fire Rescue changed stores from the location on Miracle Mile to the Goodyear location on 58th Avenue. When you look at this chart, this last 14 months, we were purchasing tires from the 58th Avenue store. The average monthly expenditure at that store was $14,697. The previous store location, the monthly purchases were $6,500, roughly. To me, that is something that needs to be, a question that needs to be answered for the taxpayer, how the purchases went up significantly when we changed from one store to another. I will also note that there was that the invoices contain a sales associate and a technician, and it's just a first name and a last initial. But I will mention that there is a common person where it looks like it's the same first name, and the last initial is listed as the sales associate and/or technician at the Miracle Mile location, and then that person appears again at the 58th Avenue location. So I want to get clarification on those points, that we are making sure that there was no knowledge by any of the Goodyear folks about what was happening there. They may make the argument that Mr. Burkeen was our agent and we're responsible for his actions. I just want to make sure that that there were no agents of the Goodyear stores that that may have been involved in this either. I haven't received a satisfactory answer on that. The investigation's ongoing. There's court proceedings to take place where some more answers may come out regarding any other involvement. So at this time, I am not recommending payment of the roughly $28,000 in invoices that have not been paid that are in dispute. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions of Jason?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Zork?
Or just of a clarification, of the roughly $300,000 in alleged theft activities, all of that has been paid except for the one invoice. So we're not, or the $27,000, that may be more than one ticket, or
It's a handful of, it's several invoices that add up to about $28,000.
right. Okay. So everything up to that point has been paid.
We have made full payment for any of the other tires in question. Yes.
And lastly, has the sheriff's office given us any update of when they think they'll have kind of all these others, looking at folks on the Goodyear side, do they need another couple of months? I know they, with the school resource officer change, some detectives are now being redeployed to other areas. So have they given us any update time frame wise when they think it would close some of these doors?
I don't have a final answer from them on that. I think some of it may be dependent on the state attorney's office and as the case progresses through there. So I don't think it's us waiting on the sheriff's office so much as maybe waiting on the court system to go through the process, which can take some time.
Thank you. Yes, sir. If you would give us your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jim Pettit with Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company.
Okay. Good morning. Welcome.
And I'm here based on what Jason just said to appeal the denial of payment. We did receive the memos that he described. We respond to each one of those. The last one asked us for the missing information that he mentioned, which was the contract number and the appeal number. We redid those invoices. We included that information that he requested. And we also did the FSA pricing, which reduced the amount that is owed to $26,747. So I'm here. I can answer any questions that you like, but each time we got a notification of denial, we responded appropriately. And Mr. Brown's correct. I mean, we took the authorized signature individual that's no longer that the county is being honest in his request to purchase those tires.
Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Pettit? I just have a couple things. So it's my understanding that the procedure we had with Goodyear was that we would bring a fleet vehicle to the store, and a Goodyear technician would then mount those tires on the fleet vehicle at the Goodyear store. Is that correct?
No, that would be incorrect.
Okay.
We sold loose tires.
Okay, I understand you sold them to Mr. Burkeen.
In the 4 years that you purchased tires from that department, they were purchased as loose tires.
Okay, because my understanding is that if we needed fleet tires, we would bring the fleet vehicle to the store to be installed by a Goodyear technician, and I would assume that we would want the warranty on it and them to be balanced and all those type of things.
I guess it'll depend on the fleet vehicle that you're speaking about.
Okay. My other understanding...
There's many different fleet vehicles, so it may be different within each organization. But I can only speak to Mr. Burkeen's purchases.
Okay. Because we also had a relationship with a company called LPEX Tire Service that would pick up loose tires from the Goodyear store, and then they would install those on engines and ambulances, which is a different size tire, I guess. And in the sheriff's report under the warrant for Mr. Burkeen, the detective says both managers from Goodyear, Thomas Germain and Jay Johnson, advised me they questioned Burkeen during these time periods about why he was getting so many tires. Both managers stated Burkeen told them that he buys extra tires that will be given out to citizens who filed lawsuit claims when their vehicle tires are damaged due to poor county road conditions, i.e. hitting a pothole. So my question is, and I looked through the invoices you provided, thank you. But over 10 different days, over 148 tires were bought from Goodyear purportedly for pothole replacement, including a whopping 55 on January 25th. And they're all in sets of 4. And so I can't help but think, didn't the managers think, well, how many potholes are there really in the county? I mean, that seems so excessive. And if we were going to replace somebody's tire from a pothole damage, and I spoke to another tire station manager, and he says, yeah, sometimes you just replace the one tire. If all the tires are worn, we replace all 4. But if the tires are worn, we're not going to take responsibility for replacing 3 worn tires. We might replace the broken one, but we're not going to buy a whole set of 4 because their tires are worn. And at 55 tires on one day for potholes, it just seems astounding to me that a Goodyear manager would say, oh yeah, that's all for potholes. I have a hard time with the fact that these tires were going out like that, and the managers just seemed happy on selling tires and not questioning where these tires were really going, knowing that it was a government employee purchasing them. Of the 10 dates we got, 6 of them were multiple invoices, so multiple trips back to the store to get more and more tires. I'm astounded that no one in Goodyear said, hey, something just doesn't smell right with what's going on here.
Well, we took the word of Chief or Assistant Fire Chief Burkane when he was questioned on why he was purchasing, and he said for potholes. He also said for the off-road fire vehicles, and gave them a couple other reasons why they did, and they had no reason not, because he'd been buying tires, as we all know, for multiple years, so no reason to suspect that he was not telling us the truth.
And would you normally think that pothole damage claims would be a normal task of the fire department, or that maybe be like maybe Road and Bridge or Public Works?
I couldn't speak to that. I wouldn't know how each of the organizations were.
All right. Well, I have concerns over just the amount of tires going out of that store and the circumstances and the volume of the tires, to me, would have raised some warning flags that I think Goodyear has some responsibility here. Now, that's just my opinion. There's 5 of us up here. But I think, I'm with Jason on this, I think there should be more, even if it has to go to a legal thing where we can get depositions and do inquiry. But I just have a big concern about a lack of any oversight from Goodyear. Commissioner Solari?
Mr. Chairman, I'm with you on this. I think that there's one thing to say that somebody in a position of trust in the county went and purchased some items, but there's another thing to say that when there's a pattern like there is now, that we should just bow down and pay the invoices. I mean, I've lived here for 37 years, and I've not heard of one person in this county on county roads, as opposed to dirt roads and stuff, on county asphalt roads, that's lost a tire from a pothole. No, I'm sure it's happened, but it's certainly not something that happens with some regularity. Certainly, I don't think it's I think people have a responsibility sometimes to open their eyes and just ask some questions. And the scope of the tire sales was so great that I think this is one of those times. And there is a way for Goodyear to resolve this issue with the county, but I don't believe it's by this board ignoring the recommendation of our county administrator at this time. So I think that we have a responsibility to the citizens to pursue it in the direction that the county administrator has been doing, and to go through the proper legal channels. So I'll just leave it at that.
Commissioner Adams, did you have a comment? And then
I would just echo Commissioner Solari's comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Fletcher.
there's a handful of words that belong at the end of a case when it has been concluded, and I have not seen those handful of words, and I believe that when the sheriff says it's open and active, it's open and active. We also have to wait for the nod from the state attorney as well. I think it would be irresponsible for us to act in any other manner. Whether there's culpability or not remains to be seen, and we have to be guided by the law enforcement professionals and not betray the public trust with funds that may have been gathered in a usurpous fashion. So thank you.
One comment to that, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I think as we're probably all aware, the sheriff has indicated that there was any indications of zero involvement by Goodyear.
And I'm not inferring that, but we do not know if this is closed. Do we have any indication that it was? Have you seen anything?
It has not been closed. I will say that I've spoken to the clerk of the court about payment of this, and we don't cut our own checks just for the general public. The clerk of the court serves as the internal auditor for the county commission, and we don't have access to our bank account. The clerk holds the taxpayers' dollars, and the clerk has indicated that they would have a question if we sent over $26,000 now of invoices for stolen tires, whether they would process that or not. They would have some questions about whether they would pay it if county staff does recommend paying it, or to recommend paying
I
it.
sincerely hope that it's concluded quickly so we can make that determination and satisfy your bill, most certainly. But it would be irresponsible if we did it otherwise.
I appreciate it.
And Commissioners, this is a formal appeal from the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. Jason, could you just summarize your current position on this that's being appealed, please?
My position is that the county should not make any payment on these invoices until and unless there's been a final determination that there was no one complicit at the Goodyear stores, no one knowledgeable about what was happening. Otherwise, they should not be paid unless and until that is proven otherwise.
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion from Commissioner Fletcher, second by Commissioner Solari, and the motion would be to deny the appeal by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company of the county administrator's decision. Dylan, is that correct procedurally?
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would wish to comment on the motion before us? Seeing none. Commissioners, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Mr. Pettit, thank you for coming here this morning. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Next on the agenda, utilities under departmental matters, the West Wabasso Phase 2 septic to sewer, April 2018 status and update. Mr. Burke, good morning and welcome again.
Good morning again, Vincent Burke, Director of Utility Services. We have a short presentation. It's under 100 slides, so hopefully you'll be still awake at the end of the presentation. We're here to talk about the West Wabasso Septic to Sewer Phase 2 and a grant funding update. Just a quick history of what happened in January of this year. The board directed staff to not pursue the Community Development Block Grant, otherwise known as CDBG, Neighborhood Revitalization and R funding, due to some of the complexities with the application process and the time to obtain funds through the FDEO, Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, but rather authorized or directed staff to pursue funding from three potential funding sources. The first is the local funding initiative through the Florida legislature. The second is the St. John's Water Management District, with the acronym shown in parentheses for their cost share program. And third is the Indian River National Estuary Program. This slide was taken from the January board meeting. Just to run through it real quick. We said that obviously there's some strong construction demand out there. We're still experiencing that right now, not only on the residential side, but on the commercial side, translating into higher prices for material and labor costs. The January 2017 price, which we are going to be using here, is not guaranteed, but it was a bid price that was submitted to the county. We will not be guaranteed to be obtaining in all 3 grants for which we tried to pursue, and then the county should be prepared if one or more of those grants are not successful. There are some optional sales tax dollars are proposed as part of the option, and we certainly want to make the board aware that we don't want to create an unwanted precedent for other utility assessment projects trying to move forward. With that being said, this project is south of 510, east of 64th Avenue, the Daisy Hope Center, encompasses about 101 properties, mostly residential, but there's some commercial on the 510 corridor. It would be installing a county lift station to the construction standards that were recently improved in March of this year. There'd be some roadway improvements, and be a gravity line to be installed with laterals going out to each and every parcel, including those that currently do not have a structure in place. The project cost is estimated to be, inclusive of the impact fees, about $2.5 million. We put a note in there that staff actually increased the project cost by about 12%. I'm sorry, the construction cost by about 12%. To account for the increase in the contract prices. So that's the number that staff had used to go towards the cost share program, which we'll identify on the next slides. Obviously, these prices are subject to change since we have not bid the project yet. So grant success, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. We were able to get the district cost share grant for $825,000. I want to say thanks to a lot of folks who are not here today that worked very hard on this, including but not limited to Arjuna Varagota, Eric Charist, Heather from our office in utilities. We worked with Melissa Dialosa and some of the folks from the district to help guide us in the process to be able to submit that cost share grant, and very successful in obtaining the award, of which there's some documentation that was provided in the backup. The Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program, we were successful for $200,000. There was some heavy competition. Let me back up and say that for the district, there were 54 applications total, and only the top 27 applications were recommended to receive funding of about $16 million. The West Wabasso Phase 2 Septic to Sewer project ranked highly on that, about number 9 out of the top 27, so scored very well in that funding. And the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program, there appears to be 24 applications that were eligible for funding, but due to the ranking criteria that were applied to those, only the top 8 were able to be funded, so we scored very high in that regard as well. And then Kate Kottner, Assistant County Attorney, had provided an update to the board about the state of appropriations through the legislature, and we were unable to obtain some of those grant funding going into next fiscal year. We provided this information in the backup. It's a little bit busy, but Commissioner Solari, who loves spreadsheets, we tried to do justice and identify, I think, 3 different options. One was the first table on the left-hand side, where that was back in January of 2017, where we had district funds, although it was for a much lower project cost at the time. That's why the funds were much lower, of just over $340,000. We didn't have any state appropriations. We didn't have any Indian River National Estuary Program, but we did have $750,000 through the CDBG grant that was split into 2 geographic areas, hence the breakdown here. One was for the West Wabasso area. The second was for the Gifford drainage, which was just approved today in a prior authorization from the board, and then some optional sales tax to assist in the drainage portion of the project. Subtotal about $1.3 million. The bid results, as we all know, came in quite high, about $1 million more than what was anticipated, and the funding deficit is at the bottom. Option 2 was just this is what we think is going to be the recommendation to try to go after some grant monies. The district dollars, $740,000. The state appropriations is what the request was put in through Erin Grall's office. Again, she did a great job on our behalf, but we were unsuccessful to obtain those dollars. And then the board committed in January of this year up to $1 million of funding to help with the deficit, because we were not going after the CDBG dollars. Again, just over $2.5 million, and at that time, if we were as successful, we would probably would not have any deficit, rather, if we were successful from the state monies. Fast forward to today, where we're updating the board for the just over $1 million of the 2 funding $825,000 from the district cost share, $200,000 from the National Estuary Program. Putting that with the $1 million that the board has committed, you can see that we're just over $2 million. However, the estimated project cost that we had shown on the previous slide, inclusive of some of the impact fees, is going to lead to a almost $500,000 deficit, which is shown in red would be the combined effort that would be needed from the county is close to $1.5 million to make this project move forward. So the timeline, obviously, we can receive and process the grant contracts, which will be coming from both the district and the IRNEP. The district has a 2-year time frame. There's also probably going to be a time frame with NEP. This is the first time that we've entered into any potential agreement with them, so we'll have to take a look at that language and some of the terms and conditions. But the district does say that the project needs to be completed within 24 months. Certainly, there's a lot of work that has to still occur for us to be able to get some bids. We have to be able to take the construction specifications, update those. We have some new construction specifications from March of this year, make sure that the plans adhere to those. We potentially could advertise and try to do some of that busy work behind the scenes in this fiscal year. We would still need to come back to the board with not only the grant contracts, but then with any update to the board with respect to the bid packages that are put out there for solicitation. But hypothetically speaking, if all our ducks in a row, we could technically be moving dirt in fiscal year 18 and 19. So we have 2 options for the board to consider today. Option 1, do not move the project forward, direct staff to table the project. This is what happened back in January of 2017. If you recall, the board previously directed staff to cancel the CDBG and the fiscal year 15-16 district cost share grant back in January of 2017. However, if option 1 is chosen, we just put a caveat out there that this may have a negative impact on future grant applications from those folks that are willing to partner with the county in trying to remove septic tanks and or dissolved constituents from bending to the water table. The second option is to keep moving forward, commit to allocating the necessary funding for the West Wabasso Septic to Sewer Phase 2 project. The board, if they so choose, could direct staff to continue the contract negotiations with both the district and the Indian River National Estuary Program. Move forward to put the specs together, to work with purchasing, to put it out for bid on DemandStar, to actually bid the project, to review the project, and then bring back the results of that bid with a recommendation to the board at some future date and time. Staff would still need to come back to the board for approval of the separate grants and, as I mentioned earlier, some sort of approval for the award of bid if that is successful. So staff, obviously, because of the high costs involved, we feel it's a good project, but the dollars needed to help move this project forward, we recommend that option 1 is to table the project at this time. Certainly, I'm available for any questions that the board may have at this time.
Thank you, Vinny. Commissioner Solari.
Vinny, thank you very much for that spreadsheet. I did like it. It was good and it was concise. It was actually clear, which a lot of spreadsheets aren't, so I appreciate that. And second, I'm going to move ahead sort of quickly on this because I think there may be some pain on my fellow commissioners one way or the other on this. I think this is an easy project to justify on some levels, and it's an easy project to vote against on other levels and other reasons. So if anybody doesn't support me on this, I'm certainly not going to be the least bit upset. But for a number of reasons, including, I believe in the future, it's going to be much harder to have even the latitude for us to move forward and suggest extra county funding on a project like this, and I think I'm going to make some of those reasons for that apparent in the next months. I'm going to make a motion to go with option 2, understanding that the full cost of this project to the county could be around $1,475,000. I understand that. I think that it's higher than we'd like for a sewer project to be, and in terms of the benefits for, say, TMDL remediation, it's not the best path forward, but I believe in terms of community development and some of the things that the government is responsible to do, it's arguably is the best path forward. So again, that's why I understand that it's a hard vote, but at the end of the day, I believe that the benefits to the Wabasso community and to the county as a whole will be greater if we do move forward with it.
Second.
Commissioner Adams, did you?
Yeah, and that's Commissioner Flesher seconded, but I agree with Commissioner Solari. You know, the there's no way I'm going to vote to send back a grant for a second time to the same agency, because there would be no way we'd get another grant from them ever again. A, and B, we've been promising the community we'd get this done. We've been trying to get a good deal on it. This is probably the best deal we're ever going to get, and we just need to put our money where our mouth is and move forward on it.
And one other thing, there is still evidently some very, very slight chance from a conversation with Ms. Cotner of getting some funds from other agencies, so without any delay in the project. So I don't mean to, I'm not going to suggest that we try to get these other grants and delay the project in any way. I want to move forward after, if this vote goes forward, and if I'm counting right, it's going to, that we go ahead and move forward with all deliberate speed, but still, if there is some chance for other grants, even if they're small, to move forward with them, if they seem to be reasonable for staff. I also want to congratulate staff for this. I think they did a very good job on this. I think on many levels, their option one was the correct, but for me, this is, at the end of the day, more a policy decision as opposed to an operations decision, which is what drove my motion. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Fleischer, then.
Yes, you know, this is several times going around, and when we initially had the conversation, we said, well, it's very unfortunate you have a community need, and we want to address it, but the funding's not there. And then we said we will exhaust every opportunity for funding, any grant opportunity, and we asked for the community support for patience and understanding as staff went through any and all possibility. Now, I understand that there might be some relief from the colder climate up in Tallahassee, but at this point, I think it would be a terrible injustice not to follow through with our commitment, because I believe we have exhausted. The staff has done the yeoman's job in looking for resources, application, and we appreciate what happened across the way with our representative's office as well. But at this juncture, we're looking at the citizens who are in great need, and there will be a greater good public benefit for the result, albeit it might be minimal as far as TMDL reduction, but we did all state unanimously that we will do everything we can, putting our best foot forward, to clear up the lagoon and address the TMDL count. So I want to thank you and thank your staff.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Zork.
In agreement pretty much with what everybody said so far, but at the last couple of meetings, you know, a number of years ago, we put in water on not all but the majority of the West Wabasso, this similar area. And my concern is getting good drinking water to these folks as soon as possible. But it's there. There's SHIP funds available to pay for the connection, to pay for the plumbing, but they don't come forward. And I know why they don't come forward is because then you get the residual base facility charge bill each month. And I don't want to me, good drinking water first, sewer second. The drinking water is there. You can make your application tomorrow and it would get processed in June and get it installed in July. And we can't seem to get the folks that are there where it's available to come forward and connect. If we don't come up with I just don't want to see the same thing repeated. If we're going to connect sewer to a house and no public water, does that make sense? To me, it doesn't. It's kind of backwards. You should have public water first, then sewer. And I don't know how do we overcome that. And now if you got a water and sewer bill, what's your base facility charge bill going to be on minimal consumption? I mean, $50?
About $19
for both?
Yeah.
Okay, so $19 a month. What's base facility charge on water?
$7.76.
$7.76. Okay, so not too bad. So we could pay for the whole connection, and we can't get them to come forward and connect when the water bill's under $10 a month. I don't know how we're going to motivate the connection on the sewer but we'll have to come up with a way. And I don't know the mechanism to do that, but as far as I know, do we have water on all these streets currently? And how many connections of water are available that have not, do you know ballpark of where there's water, that there's a house but there's not a connection?
I looked at that at one time. I think the majority of the homes are connected to potable water. I'd have to go back and find that. Yeah.
I'd gotten a number when we had a ship meeting that they thought there was maybe 30 that weren't connected, so maybe my number is not accurate. So that's good. If the majority are connected, then they're having good water, which is important for us. For those who have not connected, you can check with Dawn who runs the SHIP program and get your application through as quickly as possible. Or you can call my office and we can do what we can to get it through. If there's any other funding sources out there, we should obviously take advantage of those. And with this path that we're going down with this current motion, we still don't know what it's going to cost yet because we don't have new bids to our new standards. Is that correct? So just going to throw out a hypothetical. If the bid comes in at $4 million, is everybody still on board?
I'm not at $4 million.
Okay. So somewhere we have to have, they've got to bring the new bid back to us for award, correct? Okay, so we get a look at that. Okay. All right, that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Solari?
Just one other thing I want to get on the table now, because there is the problem of whether people hook up or not, and there is the base facility charge. For me, there's a huge difference between committing to a one-time capital expense, which we know the cost, and it's not going to be taken out of the utility department. The utility department has to charge what it charges so that all customers are being treated the same over a period of time, and the individuals still have to make some choice of whether they're still going to actually pay for that service. And I think that water is a reasonably low cost, so that they're just going to have to make it. But I don't think we can basically add, well, I know I couldn't support adding a basic entitlement like that, again, because I think that taxes are going to be harder and harder to get, and our costs are going to go up more and more. So we can't basically do what the federal government and the state government is doing more and more, and basically build up entitlements where a larger and larger portion of your budget each year is already set in stone. I think that lack of flexibility is going to be very dangerous for the state of Florida in the years to come.
And I think if we could get our billing system, if we ever change our payment screen window where we mimic the We Care fund, where people with FP&L, you can round up your bill and it provides funds that are distributed through, I think Salvation Army is the We Care distributor for those funds that are collected. If we had a donation mechanism, and they said, you know, a large percentage of their customers do participate in add $5 to my bill. I know that's what we do at our household, and that money is then distributed to those who really have a hard time paying, in this case, their electric bill, but it could be the water or sewer bill as well.
Thank you. And I concur with what all the commissioners have said, and I think it's the right thing to do for the community, but I think there's another win here, too. And if we remember back when we voted to decouple from the federal funding, one of the other benefits of that was it decoupled the Gifford Stormwater Area Project from the federal grant application. And I'd just like to point out that earlier this morning, item 8J in consent, we approved the award of the bid for the Gifford Stormwater Project. So I see that as another win for a different community, but certainly we were able to get that project bid and accelerate and moving forward. So I see this as another win going forward. So we have a motion from Commissioner Solari, second by Commissioner Flesher, for option 2, which is to move forward with the West Wabasso Phase 2 sewer project. Jason, did you have a comment?
Just real briefly, a couple of things. The legislature funding, I know we all know, but for the general public, the funding was there and it was done. So this was no shortcoming on Representative Crawler, Senator Mayfield's places. They had the money in there, and then there was a Parkland incident, and virtually all of the appropriation projects got stripped away to provide funding for what became the top priority there. So that's one thing. And the next thing is staff struggled with the recommendation here. I'll say it was my recommendation to not move forward, and that's something that we wrestled with, and utility staff was on board with the project. They see the community benefit, and they've invested a lot of time in this project as well with the design and the grant applications and all that, so they'd like to see it move forward. And Vinny, like all good engineers, likes to build things and get things done anyway, so just wanted to say that was my recommendation, and not from utility staff, so thank you.
Great, thank you. So the motion before us is to move forward with the Phase 2 West Wabasso septic to sewer. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to comment on the motion before us? Yes, please come on up.
Julianne Price, Department of Health in Indian River. Theodore Floyd, Sheriff's Department.
Sheriff's Office.
And Tony Brown, NAACP. We just want to thank you for your support on this. It's such a crucial project, and we're all relieved to hear that you're supporting moving forward with it. So thank you also to utilities, and I know everybody was here lined up to speak in support of this project, but it sounds like you guys are all in favor, so we will stand down. Thank you again.
I think Commissioner.
I just wanted to add, Vinny, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, all of you.
Thank you. Just like to make a brief announcement here. I've got a note that we apparently, for those at home, we apparently have lost the video feed on Comcast. So if you're at home, you're getting the audio but no video, but there's nothing wrong with your TV. We just lost the Comcast feed. So thank you. Teddy Floyd.
It's simple. Everybody said it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you again. Look at the smiles on the faces, and everybody were really concerned. And Vinny, thank you for all that hard work, and all of you guys, thank you so very much.
Audrey Rigby, West Wabasso Progressive Civic Club President. I do want to thank the commissioners. As I watched previously, as Commissioner O'Brien went through the analytics with the tire situation, I do recognize that this commission has gifts and talents. I want to commend the staff. I want to commend the board for their gifts and talents on this particular project.
Thank you, everyone. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to the motion before us? Everybody. Well, here we go. We knew Freddie. We knew Freddie couldn't resist a microphone sitting there in front of
Freddie
him.
Woolfolk, 4590 57th Avenue. I sat there all that time to put out my message. I got to say a part of it, and it says, "Good morning, commissioners. We are here to show our support for the sewer project in Wabasso. Yes, I live in Gifford, but I'm a member of the Indian River County family as a whole. Being a family brings about a number of strong qualities such as immediate support, concern, and a unified effort to accomplish a positive goal and fill a quality of life need in the Wabasso area. Our hat goes off to the county commissioners and staff and community leaders who are remaining steadfast in the spirit of humanity and the understanding that when one part of the county hurts, we all hurt. In closing, I want to ask that you continue to allow God to lead you in your decision making and never ever question his guidance. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Freddie. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Mary Rue, and I would like for you to hear what I have to say. In 2003, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I asked God to please take that away from me. And I stand before you today, I'm 14 years cancer-free.
Congratulations.
In 2007, I began to have kidney failure. 2010, I lost both of my kidneys. So I asked God again. I was on dialysis. I asked God again to get me better. I have grandchildren to see. He blessed that a white family blessed me with a kidney, caused me to live right now. August, I'll have that kidney for 5 years. And it come to you all. When we was here before, and I went home, and I called my doctor, my lawyer, God, and asked him to bless you all, kept your mind to help us get this done. And I want to thank you. I want to thank Gifford for backing us and everything that you all have done. Because one thing I do know, that God is a lawyer, he's a doctor, and everybody that we want him to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to comment on the motion before us? Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. I'll be very short and brief. I just want to support the folks in Wabasso and thank you folks on the commission for doing what you're doing. We know it's a difficult road to get the money together and get these grants together, and there's a lot of work still to be done, but thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you.
You just state your name and
sorry. Graham Cox, Pelican Island Audubon Society, and 1213 George Street in Sebastian.
Thanks, Graham. Okay. Anyone else wish to speak? All right, motion by Commissioner Slurry, second by Commissioner Flesher for option 2. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Vinny. We now move to county attorney matters. So under county attorney matters, the first item is thank you letters to members of Congress for the hearing titled Examining Tax-Exempt Private Activity Bonds for all aboard Florida's Brightline Passenger Rail System. Mr. Reingold.
Thank you very much. As the board probably is aware, we had a very successful hearing 2 weeks ago in Washington, D.C., and in my absence, Kate Cotner had decided that it was important and appropriately so to thank the Congress folks who were there, specifically the chair, Chairman Meadows, Ranking Member Connolly, and Congressman Posey and Mast. A lot of thank yous to a lot of folks, including Kate Cotner, who was extremely helpful throughout the entire process, to Steve Ryan and the entire team at McDermott, Will and Emery. Thank our legislators, Senator Mayfield and Representative Grawl, for actually taking the trip to be there. And it was a team effort, and again, these thank you letters would just show our appreciation to Congress and having this important hearing. With that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if you think you need a motion as opposed to just consensus of the board, I'd be happy to make the motion to send the letters.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Slurry, second by Commissioner Flesher. Any discussion? Any public comment?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say that I don't know about you all, but my phone blew up after Counselor did his fine work just recently, and I just want it noted that the entire community was very appreciative of all of his efforts, and I trust that you all have been notified as well, but I can't recall any single incident that we have done in any River County that got the attention of staff and from staff into such great volume. So thank you, Councilor.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. I also want to thank our partners from Martin County and Carafel who were also at the hearing and testified at the hearing and certainly were deeply involved. And thank you, Commissioner, for those comments.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add one other thing. One is, I don't remember the exact comments, but the president of All Aboard Florida continues to make the same mistakes the past presidents of All Aboard Florida has made. He basically has said that he picked up from Hillary Clinton and says that the people in Indian River County are deplorables because we fight this train without any understanding of why we are fighting it. And I'd also like to note in the last 6 weeks I've given 3 different speeches about All Aboard Florida, and the will of our community still stays united as ever against this train. I haven't seen any breakdown of that since 2014 when we began this fight. Still, we're at 99 plus of the people I come across who talk about All Aboard Florida want us to continue to fight the train. So I just wanted to pass that message out. This is not a done deal. All Aboard Florida, and 2 or 3 people have been saying that since 2014. It's now 2018, and basically all Aboard Florida has managed to do is lose money by running a train between Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
One, do we ever get a copy of the letter Senator Rubio sent to Transportation to see what all he had put in the letter?
For the record, Kate Kottner with Assistant County Attorney. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Shortly after the hearing, I think 2 days after, Senator Rubio announced that he was sending a letter to the Department of Transportation with his additional concerns that were raised during the hearing. Do you know if we could get a copy of to see what he was specifically asking for it to be done?
Absolutely. I have that letter.
You do?
So
Okay.
yes, we have that letter. And I just want to take this opportunity. This hearing was such an amazing event, probably one of the most amazing professional experiences of my life, just to be able to be there. But I also wanted to say a special thank you to Senator Mayfield, Representative Grahl, and Representative Magar, because they did make the trip up to Washington, D.C., so that there was a united effort, and they could hear what was going on at the federal level so they can continue the fight at the state level. So it was very wonderful.
Thank you, Kate. All right, all in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Under County Attorney Matters, item B, a draft code enforcement fine ordinance. Dylan.
Wow. After those last 2 feel-good items, this isn't as exciting. So on February 6, 2018, the board voted to direct staff to draft an ordinance that established increased fines for tampering with the water connections, and to bring that ordinance back to the board for review. Since then, the concept was reviewed and approved and supported, at least by the Development Review and Permit Process Committee. Per the board's direction, the county attorney's office has drafted that ordinance and has presented it in your agenda packet. Simply just recommend your approval of the draft and your support for moving forward with setting a public hearing for this ordinance. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. Questions of Dylan?
None.
Okay, Commissioners, your
Move
pleasure.
approval.
I'll second that. We have a motion from Commissioner Flesher, second by myself. Commissioners, any discussion?
Just one for Vinnie. Since we adopted the new standpipe to be installed with the meter and the meters being installed a little sooner, have we seen any change or trend line shift of violations?
So unfortunately, yes. The standpipes have been very helpful for those folks that know what's going on, but I just wanted to show you this. It's a little bit hard to see, and I apologize, but in the bottom of the picture, you'll see our meter and our check valve. And we found this, which is an illegal connection up where the guy's jeans and boots are. They tied into the poly right before the meter and check valve. So in essence, they bypassed the safety device, which is a concern of ours, so the public water supply. And then they tied into that line and ran it. Although they ran it to a house that had a hose bib connection, as if it was connected, they were just getting free water. So one of our inspectors, Chris, found this, but most of the stuff is under control now, but we have experienced several folks that are still the bad actors, whether or not, I mean, this takes time where you're actually going into a pressurized line, squeezing that line, and then put in a connection prior to our meter that we're able to find. So that's why we're trying to move this along is, you know, most of the folks that do good work are doing the job well, but then you have a few bad apples that are out there not taking the time, or in this case, taking more time to try to get some water and bypassing the protection device.
Okay.
If I can piggyback off that, you know, Vinny, you're saying there's still problems out there. I want the word out there that not only are these fines going to be applying to people, but the utilities department has been working very closely with the building department, and they'll be putting stop work orders on properties where this happens. And if there are multiple times that a contractor is found in violation, then we'll just simply not allow you to do work in Indian River County. And this is a severe issue, and I just want to make sure that the board and others are aware of this.
And I'd like to add that we've done the standpipe. We've moved up the time that we'll provide a meter and a connection. We used to wait until later in the process. We've moved that time period up, so we've given folks out there who had a legitimate need to maybe use some water before our policies would allow for that. That's something through the Development Review Committee and staff working with the development community. We've moved that up so that people can get the water meter set earlier, so there is no reason to do this. So that's why we need this enforcement mechanism that we've given folks. We've been more flexible on our end and given folks the opportunity to get the water there in a legitimate fashion, but we still have, and most of the folks comply, but we still, just like in most things in society, have that small percentage who's not going to do the right thing, so we need the enforcement mechanism.
And do we have a method of distribution of this so that they know that, like, send it to Maddie at Treasure Coast Builders, and in the permit pack, maybe copy of the ordinance needs to be put with that, possibly?
It'd be a good idea, not only here, but perhaps the developers committee that are meeting separately, and just getting the word out for the folks that are out there, as well as when they apply for service. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. And Commissioners, this does require a majority plus one vote, just to let you know before we vote. Oh, when we.
Oh, that's the
I thought this was the formal ordinance.
No. This was just
Draft.
the draft to
okay.
move forward to set the public hearing.
Okay.
So, yeah, but you're absolutely right. When I do bring the ordinance back, that's what you'll need.
Well, then we'll be able to take care of this. Okay, so we have a motion from Flesher, second by O'Brien. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That does carry 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Takes us to Commissioner matters. Under my items, request the board to approve amending Resolution 2003-127, which outlines the membership categories for the Economic Development Council. Over the last probably couple of years now, I guess, we've been having a little trouble getting a representative from the citrus industry to be able to attend. And then the other thing going on is citrus is kind of having some struggles and less is prominent, and some other agricultural operations are kind of coming in. So the EDC discussed to change that membership category from citrus to agriculture, which would still allow a citrus representative, but maybe bring in some other agricultural operations such as alternate crops, cattle, aquaculture, etc. So the EDC has requested that the board approve amending Resolution 2003-127 and change the citrus representative to agricultural representative.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Slaughter, second by Commissioner Flesher. Discussion? Anyone from the public wish to comment? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries 5-0. Thank you, Commissioners.
And to the chair, I'll draft up that resolution and bring it back to the board, so
Yes.
we'll have a final vote.
Very good. Thank you, Dylan. Commissioner Vice Chairman Bob Solari, item 1 is the Constitution Revision Commission update. Commissioner Solari, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is the first of what's going to be an ongoing series of amendments on the conversations on the amendments that will be on the ballot in November. I know this is going to be very exciting to the people of Indian River County, and if it happens to get on YouTube for the rest of Florida, that's great. Now, I'm going to begin with a lot of numbers just to very quickly condense what we've done since our March meeting. We left the March meeting with 25 proposals that were going down to Style and Drafting, which is a group which was going to spiff up these proposals a little bit, but they also had the power to bundle 2 or more proposals into what will become one ballot proposal. So at the end of the day, 1 proposal was withdrawn, leaving 24. Style and Drafting then bundled 6 proposals, put together 6 bundles, which represented 18 total proposals, and left 6 standing alone. So that left 24 proposals, but in what might end up, or could have ended up being 24 amendments. 12 different amendments. So it went before us for votes in April, just 2 weeks ago, and all 6 of the bundled proposals passed. 2 of the 6 standalone proposals passed. So we have 20 proposals will now end up being 8 ballot items. But in addition to those 8 ballot items, you have the 5 ballot items that were already going to be on the ballot, 3 of which were legislatively initiated and 2 initiated by citizens. So the citizens are going to be facing basically 13 different amendments representing 25 different proposals. So their job is going to be a little bit difficult. I'll make this recommendation probably every time I talk. I think it's probably, this is the year for anybody who doesn't get a ballot by mail to get it, because the lines are going to be long at the supervisor of elections offices when election day comes. This is what's on the screen now, is titled Rights of Crime Victims, Judges, a Proposal to Amend Section 16. This is what's going to be in the first bundle. So this will probably come down to the ballot as Amendment 6. I hope everybody's reading this. And you know, if you're taking the time, you're fast readers, you're probably about done. I'm sure this is clear to everyone. So I can't imagine what this is going to do and what people are going to respond to this when they get on the ballot. But to break it down, we've put it into different slides. So the first slide, Scott, is, well, the title is Rights of Crime Victims and Judges. That's supposedly going to tell you what the proposals are about. But the next one is actually the first proposal, a proposal to amend Section 16, Article 1 of the State Constitution to revise and establish additional rights of victims of crimes. So it deals with victims' rights after a crime is committed. Interestingly, that seems pretty simple, but it adds 151 lines to the state constitution while subtracting 5 for a net of 146 lines, which is 3 typewritten pages. So if some people want to go beyond the basic ballot proposal, they're going to have some work to do. And then basically this enshrines in the Constitution a slew of rights for people who have been victims of crimes, which are already basically guaranteed or in the state statutes, but this puts them in the Constitution. So I feel that that's going to be a very feel-good thing. People are going to like to vote for it. Whether or not it belongs to the Constitution or not is another matter. Now, this is actually the favorite proposal that got passed of mine, which creates Section 21, Article 5 of the state constitution, require a state court or an administrative law judge to interpret a state statute or rule de novo in litigation between an administrative agency and a private party, and not merely defer to the administrative agency's interpretation. I personally think this is great. This belongs in the Constitution. I'll give $10 to anybody's favorite charity except for Kate's and Dylan's if they'll tell me what this refers to. Time is running out. The clock.
You got to take it.
Yeah. Well, be careful when you. Time's run out, Jason. So, this is what's popularly known as the Chevron doctrine. And today we had the Law Day, and in the Law Day, it's focused today and this month on the separation of powers. The administrative state, for many of us, is actually the 4th branch of government operating in America today, but one which is not in the Constitution and one upon which there are no checks and balances. And some of us believe that this is the greatest threat to American democracy today. I'm with them, and this will be a small step in the right direction, putting a check on the administrative state in the state of Florida. Basically, the Chevron deference, which was passed in 1984 by the Supreme Court of the United States, said that if Congress passed a law and the intent was clear, then the court would simply follow that intent. But if the intent was ambiguous in any way, then the court would defer to any reasonable administration by the agency. And many have seen that to be a tremendous power, giving agencies incredible power. Next slide. And interestingly, for those who think, well, it doesn't, you know, we have to remember that there are no checks and balances really on the administrative state. There are administrative law courts, there are often administrative judges, and these judges have shown to have a balance. This was just in the Wall Street Journal on April 23rd, after actually after we voted in Tallahassee, and it says that the SEC assigned the case that was discussed in the Wall Street Journal editorial, to an administrative law judge, Cameron Elliott. According to the record, Mr. Elliott sided with this SEC's enforcement division in every one of his first 50 cases. So I ask, how would you like to be a citizen going before an SEC administrative law judge? How would you feel about your chances? I mean, the real argument here is that could somebody's due process rights possibly be accorded if they went before an administrative law judge like this, or any other judge who was required by the Chevron deference, or Florida's version of it, which actually is stronger than the Chevron deference in that its standard is the administrators has to be clearly erroneous in order to overturn it. So, again, I don't think the vast majority of the people in the state of Florida are going to jump for joy given that this is on the ballot, but it certainly helps me sleep a little easier. The third one is really non-consequential, but in my view, and it amends Section 8 of the Article 5 and creates a new section in Article 12 of the state constitution to increase the age after which a justice or judge may no longer serve in judicial office. And right now, the retirement age is 70. If he's in the middle of a term, he can go up to 72 and a half. This article, or this amendment, would basically put a 75th birthday drop dead date on his term in office. So, again, I voted against this at the CRC, but to me, it's needs to be in the Constitution just because the judicial article in the Florida State Constitution micromanages judges entirely, so you can't do almost anything with a judge with not outgoing through the Constitution, but it's not a proposal which I think most people are going to lose sleep on one way or the other. So for me, the takeaway is it's going to be difficult for citizens to understand these bundled amendments without a fair amount of time and effort. And I'd invite everybody to go to the Constitution Revision Commission website today and start looking at this. If you wait until a week before the election, you're really going to have a very slim chance in understanding what all the proposals are. So with that, that's the first of what are going to be many exciting updates in the months to come. I hope you're all looking forward to it. And if anybody has any other suggestions for this presentation in the months to come, feel free to email me at Bob Solari, whatever the rest of the email address is, IndianRiverGovernment.com. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So are you recommending a yes or no vote on this first proposal?
For this one, I'm voting a yes vote because of the article dealing with the administrative state. And this was one of 3 that I voted for, 3 of the 12 I voted for in April in Tallahassee. 1 that I voted for on the write-in loophole did not pass.
Right, okay. And so what would be really cool if Scott could figure out a way for you to take your little constitutional Sharpie marker and be able to do the John Madden thing on the screen when that comes up.
Wow, I'll tell you what. Tina,
that's an app you would like.
Tina put this together for me, and I thank Tina for that. I will see if we can't build Tina's skills and do something like that for the next one. Lord knows we're not going to get my skills ginned up to that level in time for the next presentation.
I think we should apologize to Tina in advance. Sorry, Tina.
Hey, listen, if somebody does all the work, I can present pretty well, so I don't know what you're going to have to apologize for.
The second item under Commissioner Vice Chairman Solari is Blue Cypress Lake and the possibility of pollutants. Commissioner Solari, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And basically, there was an article in, I believe it was the Orlando Sentinel, that triggered this. It was the article in the Orlando Sentinel basically indicated that at Blue Cypress Lake, there could be some problems from initially municipal treatment sewage, but certainly it seemed, according to the article, that there may have been some problem out there. And that just surprised me more than anything else. And given the problems we've had with water and nitrogen and phosphorus pollution, I want to just move as quickly as possible. And interestingly, before I wrote this agenda item, Eric Cherist from our Utilities Department had already seen the same article and had gotten in contact with the St. Johns River Water Management District. And there it seems like the gentleman from the Water Control District indicated that there might be a problem with biosolids, and basically biosolids being spread on some of the ranches out west of town. Through the rest of the conversation with Mr. Cheris and the Utilities Department, it seems pretty clear that the problem hasn't come from any of the municipal treatment of sewage, so that's a plus. But for me, the most problematic thing that came up from the information the Utilities Department came up with was that there's a clear rise in phosphorus over the last broad period. So at this point, we don't know necessarily what the cause is, but I don't want us to wait until things get worse and find a cause. The most disturbing thing to me in the backup, actually, though, was the amount. There's evidently the people who have the biosolids spread across their acreage have to send in reports to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And in 2017, the report from one ranch indicated that the total quantity of nitrogen applied was 740,000 pounds. And that's in the neighborhood of what the original BMAP indicated was the total load into the Indian River Lagoon. And I want to make it clear, this nitrogen from out west of town is not the nitrogen that's going into the lagoon, but it may be going somewhere. So it seems to me to be somewhat problematic. And then thinking about it, and with information from the Utility Department, it was clear that a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus is being spread over ranches in Indian River County. A good portion of this nitrogen and phosphorus may be from outside of the county, and it looks to me to be a problem similar to the one we had with all the sludge that was going out to the landfill and then passing through the wastewater treatment plant and causing a significant problem with our operations there. So all that was a long way of saying that I want to see if the board wants to ask staff to follow up with this, have some continued conversations with the St. Johns River Water Management District and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, come up with, take what they get from those two departments and from what they also know, and sometime in the next few months get back to us. I'll note that, and I will thank Vinnie for correcting it. I had June 18th. It's actually June 8th, 2018. The Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council and Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program already have a planned science summit on biosolids, which I plan to attend. And I'd like to be able to take all of that information and come back sometime, maybe in July, with a report to the board on this, just to get an idea of, basically get together the best information we have on this to see what the problem is, if there is a problem.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams, comment?
Sure. I think July is a good time frame. I was going to suggest later, middle to late of the summer like that because of the forum, so thank you for that. I would also mention that the St. Johns River Keeper was out at Blue Cypress last month, and they were discussing and had a presentation related to some biosolid issues there, so that might be a group we might want to, you might want to follow up with as well. And the Soil and Water Conservation District has had some conversations related to biosolids and ag uses, particularly in the western part of the county, at their most recent meeting. So that might be a local group that we could reach out to as well for more information.
So I'm fine if we just go with consensus. Commissioner Solari asking staff to look into this, and then Commissioner Solari will kind of spearhead this effort on the board's behalf. And
Chairman?
Commissioner Zork, yep.
Just to add to that, depending on when these results started showing up, I visited out to Blue Cypress a number of times after Hurricane Irma and actually saw kind of the a week after the storm, the lake was still rising, and it was rising into a lot of the farm areas and a lot of the sod farm areas and ranching areas, that you probably have to include the basin area, which would include Okeechobee and Osceola County, because as that water in the lake continued to rise up, it went north, west, southwest, south, and brought a lot of potential. If you take those fields that are traditionally dry and you add 3 feet of water to some of these areas, you probably inadvertently transported some of that biosolid material back into the lake. So is it a one-shot deal, or is it a ongoing concern when you don't have hurricane events? And that might be something to try to look into as well.
Yeah, I'll note, and I'll ask Vinny to give the charts on nitrogen and phosphorus that he sent me to all the board members. But this shows a trend that starts in 2006 and goes through 2018. And I'm not going to get this exactly right, but roughly in the middle of it, we'll say particularly phosphorus started to trend up. So it ends up now being over 3 times, the amount of phosphorus ends up being roughly 3 times greater in say the last 15-year period. And the backup will give more exact on the dates. So about 3 times greater in the last 15-year period as opposed to what it was in the first 15 to 17 years. So it seems like a slow, and it goes up and down. It's spiky, but the trend is definitely for more, particularly more phosphorus as I read this. So it's now, it's more than a one-time or two-time event. It's a pretty much, they've been looking at it for over 3 decades, and the trend seems to be demonstrably, well, up, but negative in terms of how we'd like to see it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're good, giving staff this direction by consensus. Very good. That concludes the agendas. Commissioner, any comments for the public good?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing none, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.